I know a lot of people have been wanting this for a while, but it really is amazing to think that it really could just be over with Joel Embiid. And if it's not over yet, we ask the question, are you done with it? It's Kincade and Salciunas, Connor and for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade and Salciunas.
Joel Embiid and the 76ers are considering alternative options on his injured knee. The alternative option is the only option. It's shut him down.
I think now we're getting to the point where people are going to open their eyes and just say, okay, we know what the story is. Let's stop hoping that it's going to be different.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Monday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside my man Connor Thomas, who is in for John for the next couple of days. John out for the week. Connor will be out Thursday, Friday, which is when Andrew DeCecco and then Amy Fadul will be filling in. So a lot of moving chairs going on this week, but that's what happens after your Philadelphia Eagles make a deep playoff run and win the damn Super Bowl. And thank God for the Eagles, Connor. Good morning.
Good morning, Andy. Had a nice weekend winning some money on those Philadelphia 76ers against the Warriors.
You may have been the only one. That's good work by you.
I mean, that was such a process Sixers win from yesteryear where it's just like, yeah, they've lost this many games in a row. They're playing a red-hot, good team. Joel Embiid has his season come to an end due to a medical decision there by the team. And then you've got a win on the Quentin Grimes game. So, fun, weird weekend for the Sixers.
Quentin Grimes dropping 44 points. Some are saying that it's because Bill Colarulo and Andrew Salciunas interviewed him at the Sixers Gala.
Oh, my God,
earlier in the week. And maybe Quentin Grimes, felt motivated hanging out with that guy Andrew and that guy Bill.
Great work by you.
That's what it was.
I didn't even put that together.
Now, you mentioned Embiid shut down. So today, throughout the course of the show, we're obviously going to talk Eagles. You guys know that that's always something that you can expect when you're listening to sports talk radio in Philadelphia in 2025, right? Eagles are always on the table. But we knew that this decision would happen eventually. I'm surprised it took as long as it did, honestly. And I understand you don't want to give up on any season, but this season has felt like a give-up year for a while now. And so it came down Friday around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Talk about an all-time news dump on a Friday. My buddy Jamie Lynch and I used to do a segment on Saturdays called the Weekend News Dump because a lot of teams do this, and the Sixers are spectacular at it when it comes to dropping news late in the day Friday so that maybe over the course of the weekend a news story happens, and so they avoid the midweek news cycle. Well, nothing really happened over the weekend, so we have to talk about it. Joel Embiid is officially done. Now, you said something that may be wrong. You said that the team came to the medical decision. That may not be true, and we'll play you a report from Sham Charania coming up in the next segment in the 6 o'clock hour that this may have also been a Joel Embiid decision and could have been a Joel Embiid decision for a long time. And that's why when you heard the open, and now it's time for a new one because it is official that Joel Embiid is done for the season, they were looking for alternative options. There was only one, and it was to end the season. Now, look, alternative options could mean, does he get a procedure? What kind of procedure? Or is it just rest? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I have not examined Joel Embiid's knee. So I don't know exactly what this situation's going to be. But you know that he's going to miss an extended period of time. You know he's done for the rest of the season. And based off of whatever this procedure could be, he could miss a lot of time next year. I mean, we're in March already. All right? So the season's not far. And it's not like he's a 6'2" guard. Not that I want to say a serious procedure is easier for some than others, but it is. Like a 6'2" guard versus a 7-foot center who usually deals with being a little bit of out of shape when he misses time. We see him get back into shape when he plays, but when he misses time, you know that Joel Embiid is not coming back and he's cut and he's in the best conditioning. So it's going to take some time for Joel Embiid to get back to any bit of that MVP form that we once saw, and we might never see it again. And that's why it might just be over. Like Friday's news dump and then the weird articles that came out over the weekend about how the Sixers could potentially get out of the contract, if that's being talked about, that means it's been whispered already. Does that mean it's going to happen? No. But the fact that that is being written about or being spoken about by NBA reporters on radio or TV tells you that it's being talked about or at least being thought about. So, Connor, is it over? The Joel Embiid era. And it could be either him wearing a Sixers uniform, it could be him wearing an NBA uniform, or it could just be the Joel Embiid that we know from a talent standpoint. Forget what you want to say about work ethic and whether or not you think he comes up small in the playoffs. Forget all that. I'm talking about just straight-up talent. A 7-foot center that can be a bully down low, that can shoot the mid-range game better than most NBA players, can hit from beyond, can be a facilitator, can be a rim protector, can be a rebounder, can be a good defender. I'm talking about the all-world talent that Joel Embiid was. Is that just done? I don't know who we're going to see when he comes back.
So the Joel Embiid Sixers era, I don't believe is over. I don't think this is the end of him being a part of this team because, one, the way that they announced that, the work that he did this season, right? Like he was trying to play through it. And you got to give him some credit for that. He was giving an effort to try and be out on the floor. He couldn't move, man. He couldn't get out there and play. But that to me and the announcement of, okay, we're trying to figure out how to get this done. We're going through all of these issues to figure out what the best way to proceed medically is to get him back healthy again. Makes me believe he's not done playing basketball. Like, I don't think Joel Embiid now in 2 weeks is going to say, whenever the season comes to an end, hey, I'm done, I'm hanging it up, career's over. Because I feel like going through everything he did this season, there would have been a different conversation about that. This feels like I'm trying to get back to being able to play. And then this offseason, you look at that and you say, okay, well, he's not going to be able to be traded because no one's going to trade for him until he recovers from whatever the procedure ends up being or whatever the rehab ends up being. And then you're going to be in next season with him either ready to go or him still rehabbing. And you're not going to trade him early on in next season because you're going to want to see what you have because Paul George is still under contract.
Yeah, you're not trading. I mean, if he's here to start the season, I imagine he finishes the 2025-26 season.
Yeah, so I don't think his time as a Sixer is over. But I do think we saw the last of peak Joel Embiid.
All right, so then the follow-up, because everybody can chime in on that at 610-632-0975, and the other follow-up is, are you done? Are you done with Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers, his time with the Philadelphia 76ers? Because, look, I will once again say it, I'm going down with the ship. To your point, if they do trade him, it's not going to be for much. All right, it's going to be for another expiring contract. The only other name that you could think about is Kevin Durant, but is that for Paul George or is that for Joel Embiid? I don't know what that move is. There was a report that came out this weekend that the New York Knicks desperately were trying to get Joel Embiid before Joel Embiid got the contract extension, and maybe that's why the contract extension happened. There was talks before this season started about Joel Embiid potentially going elsewhere. Remember the quote of what's next for Joel Embiid? Oh, I'm going to win a championship either in Philadelphia or somewhere else, right? So we go back to that. And I know the Sixers did a lot of PR to try to fix that situation. It came off poorly, and a lot of people did not like hearing it. So are you done with Joel Embiid? I'm asking the audience at 610-632-0975. But Connor, I want to ask you, you know me, I'm going down with the ship. I just got to cross my fingers that one day it works out. I've used the Dwayne Wade Shaq analogy before on this show. I'll say it again. Maybe when Joel Embiid comes back, he's still a force, but he's not the perennial leading scorer in the NBA, MVP, runner-up for MVP. No, he's a great piece to Tyrese Maxey, just like Shaq was to Dwayne Wade when he first went to Miami.
Yeah, I'm not done yet. And it's not so much a faith in Joel Embiid will come back healthy and win a championship and be an MVP caliber player again. That's not what's driving this. It's not like this belief in who Joel Embiid can be at this point forward as a basketball player. It's more the Sixers don't really have a lateral move. They certainly don't have a positive move that they can make right now when it comes to where they're at contract-wise. And I just look at the Embiid contract, the Paul George contract, and let's say they play out the remainder of that time. Maxey's 23?
Yeah.
Jared McCain had a nice first couple of months. We'll see what he is. But, if you allow them to play out the remainder of their contract, it's not like Maxey's 30 and you're missing prime years of Tyrese Maxey. And if you don't do it now, you're losing the next guy to build around. So if Embiid is still here, you're not really killing the 27, 28, 29-year-old Maxey years, which should be ideally his prime in the NBA. So I'm good to, let him play it out. If he can still get on the floor, even if he's not the guy, because then you move Paul George contract and maybe you bring in another star to be the guy on the team if KD's a thing or someone comes up in the next couple years. I'm not done because being done doesn't help you right now.
No, unless you're going to blow it all the way up. And
But you can't trade him. So.
Right. And I always say blow it up means a lot of moving parts. Like the only guy that stays here is Tyrese Maxey. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, do that.
And Quentin Grimes.
And Quentin Grimes after the big night the other day. So are you done with Joel Embiid? And you could tell us, oh, I've been done, right? This is just another reason why I've been done. Did you make a jump after this weekend when you find out Friday that he's done for the season? And who knows what the hell this offseason entails for Joel Embiid? Has that changed your opinion? I said it last week, I believe, that I think there's a lot of people that are on the fence that just need one more push. And this is the push for a lot of people. I can expect to hear from people talking about that today. So you can climb in 610-632-0975. I mentioned it. Shams Charania reporting on this situation over the weekend. This could have been a Joel Embiid decision. Could this get messy? Find out next. Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli, Bill Colarulo, and Ray Dunn. They have a lot to say.
Yep. Bradford Way Water Heaters. My bad. It is 6:14 here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. on this Monday morning. Football Mondays, Championship Mondays on the Fanatic, presented to you by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com. We are going to get into the Eagles in the next segment, and there will be an Eagles-related topic throughout the course of the show. But we're opening up with the Sixers because the big news happened Friday around 4 o'clock, the news dump that Joel Embiid is done for the season. It was the only option. Like, there was no – I didn't understand. I know there was a report last week that they were trying to do daily injections to try to help with the knee. If I saw Joel Embiid take time off for the All-Star break, come back for the Boston Celtics game, and look like a brittled old man trying to go up and down the court. That was with rest. That was with time off, right? And one of the reports was, all he needs is rest. All he needs is rest. He had his rest throughout the All-Star break. He came back, and it was sad. Like, I was sad watching Joel Embiid play. It was like watching an old a person that you love your whole life getting old.
You remember the Jokic triple overtime game where he played 8,000 minutes, and by the end of it, he was hobbling up and down the court. That's what Joel Embiid looked like from the start
in
of
the first quarter. In the first quarter, it was horrible.
Yeah,
so what? You were gonna just hope that he would come back and beat? No, there was this team will be lucky if they get a play-in, and nobody's rooting for it. Nobody's rooting for it. I know that they're going to still play for it, and I spoke with Nick Nurse at the Sixers Gala. They're still pushing for it. That's obviously every competitor still wants to try to get into the playoffs, but this idea of once we get in, anything can happen, no, screw that. You're in trouble. This team is not going to win anything, and shutting down Joel Embiid definitely adds to that. The season is officially over. So here was Shams Charania over the weekend, a very interesting report. I asked the question of whether or not this could get messy. Take a listen to what Shams Charania had to say about Embiid and his season coming to an end.
This all came to a head over the last couple of weeks, specifically when I'm told Joel Embiid went directly to 76ers owner Josh Harris about the state of his knee and the realization he's at with what's in the best interest of him, the organization, as far as a potential shutdown. Because remember, Josh Harris owes Joel Embiid up to $300 million over the next 5 seasons. So the backdrop to all this is that over the last month, we've seen fundamental differences between Joel Embiid and the 76ers as far as Embiid believing that he needs a different treatment approach for this versus the 76ers feeling you play on it, get in better condition, and you could continue on this year. This has been a situation the 76ers have been dealing with all season, and they've managed the swelling in multiple different ways, including injections monthly just to get him on the court. But here they are in lockstep. This is all about getting Joel Embiid back on the court in the best sustainable way, and they are in lockstep about that.
So now they're in lockstep. But you heard Shams straight up say Embiid went to Josh Harris to talk about his knee when the team, and I don't know if that's team doctor, I would guess, and then obviously management said, hey, you can play through this and just get into better shape, and once you're in better shape, you'll be able to not feel as much pain. Dude, I'm sorry, that's an off-season program. That's not a regular season. Team is 18 games now, 17 games because of the win the other night, under 500 approach. That's not a team that's hoping to get in the play-in tournament and hoping that something goes their way against the Cavs or the Celtics in the first round of the playoffs. No, that's an off-season program. And the fact that Joel Embiid had to go over everybody's head to Josh Harris to talk about it, this could become messy because once a player is disappointed, and we'll see, does Josh Harris desperately want Joel Embiid to stay? Or is Josh Harris open to the idea of him moving on? And, of course, this is the face of the franchise. This is the guy that you did this whole process for, that you're trying to build a new arena around. If Joel Embiid is frustrated to the point where he has to go over everybody's head, this could be bad.
It could be. It already is, but it could be worse.
No, I'm saying it could be, it could be worse in terms of what this offseason all of a sudden entails.
I just don't know how much it matters if the guy can't get on the court, and that sucks to say, and you should always go in your player's best interest when it comes to injuries, but it's a weird situation, man.
It is, and then you get a report from Scoop Robinson, who's been covering the NBA for a long time, that the Sixers are the leading charge to bring Bob Myers to Philly. And, of course, Bob Myers was the architect of the Golden State Warriors. And Bob Myers is out of the NBA and working with the Commanders, who's owned by who, Connor?
That would be Joshua Harris.
Yeah. Just reading the tea leaves a little bit. Keep an eye on that one. All right, we're going to open up the Eagles discussion coming up next, but we'd love to hear from you. Are you done with Joel Embiid? Answer the question, 610-632-0975. But we're going to have some fun talking about the Eagles. Are the Eagles the team to beat in the NFC? NFC East, I should say. Hell yeah. A division rival made news this weekend, and Connor Thomas is scared.
It couldn't have been another Josh Harris team.
Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Embiid is out. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Over the weekend, the Sixers announced that Joel Embiid would not be medically cleared to play the rest of the season. Embiid and the team are currently still in search of the best treatment for his knee to return to the court as soon as possible. ESPN Shams Charania spoke on SportsCenter over the weekend, and he broke down what exactly is going on.
This has been a situation the 76ers have been dealing with all season, and they've managed the swelling in multiple different ways, including injections monthly, just to get him on the court. But here they are in lockstep. This is all about getting Joel Embiid back on the court in the best sustainable way, and they are in lockstep about that.
They won't have Embiid tonight, but the rest of the team continues on with their season tonight when they welcome in the Portland Trailblazers. Tip-off is at 7, and you can listen to that game live right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Eagles are in the midst of their off-season, and one of the deadlines is approaching. The franchise tag period closes tomorrow at 4 p.m., so the team will have to decide if they're going to use it on any of their pending free agents. Zach Bond, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, etc. Right now, it does seem unlikely. And the Flyers, they remain idle today, but they hit the ice again tomorrow when they welcome in the Calgary Flames down at the Wells Fargo Center. This update was brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. So what are you waiting for? Call Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Philadelphia Sports.
Kincade and Salciunas. Johnny out for the week. Connor in for him. Brendan Gunn producing the show. Gunner, before we open up the Eagles topic, I want to get your thoughts on the Joel Embiid situation. Joel Embiid, as of Friday, late afternoon, officially done for the season. And my question for the audience today, it's an easy one, maybe hard to answer for some, but an easy question. Are you done with the Joel Embiid era with the Philadelphia 76ers? And, you know, I've stayed true to my word. I'm going down with the ship. But I know every time news like this happens, more and more people have already jumped off the ship. I think the ship is already pretty empty. And one day, we're going to have the conversation of how you look back at them. Because I found it really interesting last week, to no surprise, when John asked us, you know, what are some of your first thoughts about Embiid? We think positive stuff.
Absolutely.
He thinks negative stuff. I also do believe that is a generational thing. And I'll explain that later on in the show. But Brendan, your reaction to the question, are you done with Joel Embiid in a Sixers uniform? Your answer is what?
Yeah, I think I'm out completely on it as far as I don't think they're ever going to win with the guy on the roster. But as far as being out, trying to trade him, force him away, what are you going to get back for the guy if it comes to that? Like, he has to be on the roster going forward. So I have to root for the team. I have to root for the guy.
He doesn't have to
do that.
He doesn't have to be on the roster. You could get literally crap for him.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, what are you going to get?
If you don't think that they're going to win with him, then what's the point of keeping him around just to keep him around? I still think it is a very small percentage chance that when he's healthy, he is still one of the best players in the NBA. And so I roll the dice and go, hey, the plan last year was for him to be healthy come playoff time. Unfortunately, the procedure happened later on in the season. The plan this year, they were supposed to do this whole ramp-up thing. It never even ramped up. But when he is healthy, he's one of the better players in the NBA, which is why I'm still going with it. But if you think that there's no shot of them winning with him, then you might as well move on and try to start over, because it's not just the contract. It's also him looming over the franchise.
Right, but the problem with that is it's so far away to the point where you can move on from him. You're not going to be able to trade him this offseason because he's going to be going through this recovery process, and no team's going to touch that, especially on a max contract. So you got to wait till next year. When you get to the actual season, the number of those players that could be moved, the discontented max contract players that you could see as part of a Joel Embiid trade, they're going to have already been moved. They're not going to be moved like a month or two into next season, which I don't know about you guys. I'm not living in a world where the assumption is Joel Embiid starts the next season healthy. This sounds like a lengthy recovery process.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I don't know if this guy ever puts together 82 games ever again combined in the rest of his career. When we're talking about maybe reports of them going for the league-induced retirement for his injury, and they shut him down for the season, but there's still no answer to what exactly is going on. He's just not medically cleared.
Yeah,
there's no answer.
In case people are wondering, there's a report from Keith Smith. Not a report. It was Keith Smith just kind of talking about it, that the Sixers could reach out to an independent doctor selected by the NBA and the Players Association that would examine Joel Embiid. And if it's agreed that he can no longer play, his remaining contract would be wiped off the books for the Sixers. Now, that is, I don't want to say best case scenario. Best case scenario is he comes back and he's healthy and they win a championship. But that would be the best case scenario if they do decide that we can't keep Joel Embiid around here anymore, because you're not going to get much in return if you are trading him. If you could just completely wipe the contract off the books, that opens up a max slot.
And you could do it
and now you're
faster
starting over
rather than waiting for a trade partner. I talked about it on my show this weekend where, like, I'm not advocating for Joel Embiid to hang it up. Like, if this dude wants to go through the rehab process and try and play again and wants to be on the court, like, absolutely. Like, if he's still a member of this team, I want him to be able to play. And if that's his personal choice that he wants to keep playing professional basketball, that's his choice. It's not mine. But the best case scenario for the Sixers, like the easiest way, is not even waiting for that. It's that with this procedure, he decides that, like, I'm never going to make it back on.
Well, and I've talked about this for a year and a half now. I wouldn't blame him.
No, me either.
Like, pick an injury. I wouldn't blame him if he didn't want to come back from it. Another meniscus, another foot, another orbital fracture. Like, I wouldn't blame him. And I've been saying that for a year and a half now. And, like, to me, like, I can put aside professional athlete millions of dollars and think about the human. I can. I know a lot of people about sports struggle with that, especially in Philadelphia, right? We all work our asses off to get by on a daily basis. And so when you hear me talking about how a player could retire and they've made millions and millions and millions of dollars, I get it. People roll their eyes or laugh at it or they get angry. But from the human element, how many injuries do you want to keep on trying to, work through?
Yeah, the days of Ronnie Lott amputating one of his fingers at like halftime of a football game to go back and play are over. Like I can't expect that from a player to have major injuries and still want to break down his body.
And this isn't health like illnesses. Like, no, this is his injuries are because of basketball.
Exactly.
Right? Like he could stop playing basketball and probably live a more comfortable life the rest of the way. Same with football players, right? We know this. This is what happens when you play sports, and it's grueling, and you're 7'2", and it's hard to recover from injuries. So look, are you moving on? Are you done with Joel Embiid? You can answer that question at 610-632-0975. But there was NFL news this weekend. The Washington Commanders made a deal with the San Francisco 49ers for wide receiver Deebo Samuel, and it's amazing. My first reaction is, Eagles are winning the division. You say to me this morning that you don't like that the Commanders got Deebo.
Yeah, I don't like it. And you said some mean things to me.
I think you overrate him so much.
No, it's not an overrating of Deebo Samuel. It's this Washington Commanders team has a big offseason undertaking of trying to rebuild a team that made it to the NFC Championship game. And they had a lot of one-year contract guys.
Yes, they do.
And there's a world where they don't bring in talent this offseason. There's a world where they don't build things the right way. I'm not saying they got Deebo. Whew, we're in trouble. But what I am saying is I went into this offseason thinking, wow, how great would it be if Washington can't remotely put together a roster that would compete with the Eagles, because that is a possibility. That organization has had their struggles in the past, and Deebo is a talented player. He's had success against the Eagles. That 49ers season was weird this year because they had a lot of injuries all over the place. But
Dude, he hasn't been good since 2021.
Listen. He's still a talented football player, and the less talented football players in the NFC East, the better. And the more that come in, the better chance that another team has a better chance at playing the Eagles. I still think.
Is he actually still talented?
Yes.
Deebo Samuel does not scare me remotely.
He does
remotely.
I mean, I think you're underrating.
He's also 29 years old, and he's the youngest guy on their weapon, on the whole weapons on the Commanders. Austin Eckler's 30.
I know. How old?
Terry McLaurin's 30.
Is he really 30 already? Yeah, he'll be 30 this season.
What?
That's amazing,
dude.
Deebo's
the youngest weapon they
5
have.
minutes. Yeah, like Deebo doesn't scare me even the slightest bit. And so when that move happened, you know what that move screamed for me? That move screamed 2022 Eagles.
Okay, I can get with you on that.
When I saw that happen, and I'm not saying anything new here. You know what I've been saying about the Commanders. I think the Commanders fall off next year. I've been saying that since mid-season of this year. Cute story. It's amazing. The team of the Commanders with Dan Quinn and obviously Josh Harris and Bob Myers and everybody a part of that organization, they batted 1,000. They hit on draft picks. They hit on all their one-year deals. But at some point, those one-year deals, they either go elsewhere because they made a bag and they're going to go somewhere else, or they're now like Bobby Wagner and they're 38 years old, or however old Bobby Wagner is. At some point, their play's going to fall off, and I think it falls off this year. They played into the NFC Championship game. Those older bodies, we're fortunate that the Eagles won the Super Bowl at such a young age. Those older bodies for the Commanders, they're not going to recover the way. They played a lot more games, and they had to play in the first round of the playoffs, second round, and third round of the playoffs.
I got you. There's still levels to this. The Eagles are still the clear best team in the NFC East. All I'm saying is, when I look at a young quarterback's development, like Jaden Daniels, the number one thing a team can do to help promote that is put talent around them. Give them weapons. And the fact that they're going out and they're finding a guy that can add depth to their offense, it's not a good thing. I'm not oh no, here come the Commanders, but it's not a good thing that Deebo Samuel is now on that team.
Yeah, I know. To me, dude, and that's I can't believe that you're saying it's not a good thing. That I saw that report and I went,
they only traded a fifth for him. It's not like
I'm scrolling on Twitter. I see the report. I go, all right, on to the next. What else do we see? What bot am I going to find on social media now? Like Deebo Samuel does absolutely nothing for me. If anything, it makes me feel even better. That's why I literally wrote down the Eagles. This is before you even said that you were worried about Deebo going to the Commanders. To me, the Eagles are now going to begin a run of winning the NFC East because the Cowboys aren't close. The Giants aren't close. And I can't see the Commanders recreate what they did last offseason to put together a good team. I don't expect that happening again this offseason for the Commanders. So, next to our Sixers conversation, our Eagles discussion. Are you expecting the Eagles to begin a run of winning the NFC East? Something that we've not seen for 19 years. No back-to-back winners in the NFC East. I think it is clear that the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC East for years to come. We'd love to hear from you at 610-632-0975. By the way, we have a pretty big announcement coming up at 8 o'clock today. I'll talk a little bit more about that coming up next. We'll also check your text messages for the first time this morning. It is Kincade and Salciunas, Connor and for John for the next couple of days here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Vitalico, and Silvana Kelleher.
Here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. So coming up today, we got a big announcement. at 8 o'clock. So make sure you set a reminder to be listening to a big announcement. An always fun announcement.
A big one for yours truly.
A yearly announcement. And I'll just leave it at that. That comes your way at 8 o'clock this morning. We'll check our text line here momentarily. Again, our talking points, Joel Embiid, Friday at 4 o'clock. It was announced that he was done for the season. And so my question for you today at 610-632-0975, are you done with Joel Embiid with the Philadelphia 76ers? And so I want to know, what levels of done are you? Have you been done? Was that the final straw? Are you done to the point, the old saying of get rid of him for a bag of basketballs? Obviously, that's not how it works, but are you willing to move on and just literally do whatever it takes to get him out of here? Or are you somebody that actually wants to try to make some sort of deal that's best for the team? I just don't know what that deal is. So you can't just say, get rid of him and get me a star. Like, it's not
right.
that. If you are going to trade Joel Embiid, you're not going to get a great package. And so there are people that go, okay, that's fine. I'm ready to move on. And then I'm sure there are some people that hesitate and go, well, no, hold on a second. What if you trade him for Cade Cunningham? It's like, no, that's not how this works. And then the Eagles discussion, I was amazed. Brendan, what was your reaction? You sent us the text that you said you have to hate Debo more now because Debo obviously is a thorn in the side of the Eagles fans. But when I saw the move happen, I wasn't remotely worried. Connor told me this morning, he's like, I don't like this, man.
I said I don't like it.
When I saw it, I was like, I don't want him on the Commanders. But then the more I looked at it, I was like, that's cute, I guess. Like, I'm not scared of him going against Cooper DeJean in the
That's the thing.
slot.
I saw Cooper DeJean lock down Jamar Chase one-on-one on a fourth down. You think I'm worried about 40-year-old Debo Samuel hasn't done anything in 4 years?
He talks more than he puts on the field anymore. He shows up out of weight. The picture of him in the Eagles jersey, he looks like he could be working at a Dunkin' Donuts.
We're going to get some use out of that picture this year, by the way.
Yes, we will,
but
man.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly what B. Gunn just said there. Like, I don't love that, but
I love it.
I'm not worried about. Dude, do you know how many NFL wide receivers are worse than Debo Samuel?
Like, you know how many wide receivers are better than Debo Samuel?
I got you, but who is their number two? Who is the Washington Commanders' number two?
He is.
He is Dynami Brown, probably.
Dynami Brown, who had a good season.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. They went to the NFC Championship. I'm not saying like, oh, they're a Super Bowl team now.
Them getting Debo in 2025 is the same thing as them getting Curtis Samuel a couple of years ago. We're like, we're going to use him in all sorts of different ways. And now Curtis Samuel's digging up ditches somewhere. Like, I haven't heard of that guy's name in 5 years.
By the way, they could have found a way to use Jahan Dotson, and they couldn't do that. And they ended up moving on. And now Commanders fans are thinking that they made some big move because the Eagles traded for Dotson for a third-round pick, and they only had to trade a fifth for Debo Samuel. The Eagles won the Super Bowl, number one. So trump card, boom, it's over. I win the argument. And number two, Jahan Dotson was 2 years in the league. Debo Samuel is on the back end of his NFL career. And I don't know if he ever puts together a season like he did back in 2021. He's ultimately only had one elite season. One.
Right.
And that was in 2021.
I gotcha. I totally get it. I'm not saying Debo Samuel is this unstoppable force and now the Commanders are a problem. I would like talented players at any level, talented players to not be in the division of the team that I root for.
And just think about the way they used him. They used him a lot like a running back. When do running backs start to fall off? Right where you're at the age of 29, hitting
true.
30.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much he has left in the tank.
He doesn't freak me out at all. So what are the people saying on the text line this morning on any of our topics? Again, you could text in at 610-632-0975. We always appreciate you guys being a part of the show. What do we got, Gunnar?
Yeah, we got Joe the Cynic checking in, so I guess you can figure out which way he's going with the Embiid thing. He says, I hope they cut ties with Joel as soon as possible or that he retires. Or anybody else in the front office. I just can't do it. It's another disastrous contract, and we're not going to win with him on the team. We got to fully wash off the stink of losing.
Yeah, and look, I've been saying this for probably 2 seasons now. This is before John and I started working together. John was very proud of me. I still remember when I had a show about this. I don't blame anybody for that opinion. I'm the weirdo that still wants to try. All right, like I'm the one that's going against probably the norm in Philadelphia right now because I've seen the excellence. I still believe that there is a way of winning. I mentioned the Shaq and D-Wade comparison, right? Shaq was 32 years old when they won the NBA championship. Oh, no, sorry. He was even older. He was 34 when they won the title in Miami, a couple of years into his tenure with the Miami Heat. And Dwayne Wade was obviously becoming a star, a Hall of Famer in the NBA. That could be Tyrese Maxey. You give him some more experience this year being the guy on the court. If Joel Embiid comes back, Shaq averaged, the year they won the title, Shaq averaged 17 and 7. It wasn't the 30 and 15 that he was averaging with the Lakers, but he was still his rim protection. He was still the presence down low. Obviously worked out well with a guy that could shoot from anywhere like Dwayne Wade. That could be the Maxey and Embiid kind of thing, as long as Embiid can move. Yeah, which I don't know if he can anymore.
I'm not where you are. When I say I'm not done with Joel Embiid, I don't think there's a way for them to move off that contract. And at this point, like, the only reason I would say, I'm done with him is I'm like, okay, trade him, move on from him, do whatever. I just don't see that as a likely scenario this offseason. I don't think he gets moved. I don't think you can move him with everything going on. So you kind of have to live with it for the time being.
Well, right. Now, correct. That point is more like this is what actually will or will not happen. Right? I'm just wondering, do people want to move on?
I don't think you win with it.
Like, if they could snap their finger, would they move on from Joel Embiid? And I imagine majority of people today in 2025 are saying yes. And I don't blame a single person. I haven't blamed a single person for a couple of years now. Like 3 or 4 years ago when people were saying move on, it was more so based out of hate. Now it's based out of exhaustion. And I can't blame anybody who's exhausted, who's apathetic, who's depressed, who's checked out. I mean, there's a lot of people that I imagine that are just straight up checked out. I was the loser watching Sixers-Knicks the other night. I was the loser not watching the Four Nations face-off and watching the Sixers play basketball, right? I'm the loser. I know that. I don't hide from that. I don't run from that. I am the loser that still believes it's something. Well, belief is hard, but I'm still the loser that still goes and watches every single Sixers game go, maybe something can happen.
We have a lot of clips in there that we're going to need someone to grab if you call yourself a loser. But, yeah, I mean, if I could get out from under that contract right now, I would. Like, so if that's where we want to go with the are you done with Embiid thing, I guess I'm done. And it sucks because I've been more lockstep with you than most people, I think, when it comes to his ability and keeping him and believing in him. But at this point, I can't see a path to winning an NBA championship with Joel Embiid.
All right, give us one more text, Gunner, before we continue on with the program today.
All right, we'll switch it over to Peter from Reading. He says, I love that the Commanders got Debo. He's been an absolute cancer in the locker room for San Francisco the past 2 years.
And what did I say to you during the commercial break?
He's going to punch his kicker in the face or something?
Well, that's kind of what happened. So, coming up next, we'll get into that some more. I don't know if a great locker room like the Commanders were last year should be bringing in somebody that's been a bit of a problem with a team that's been very good. Let's not act like he's been playing for the Carolina Panthers. All right, he's been playing for a team that's been in the NFC title game a lot over the last couple of years, and he was still miserable. All right, check more text messages. We reset the show. Don't forget, big announcement for the station coming up at 8 o'clock today. Big announcement mainly for you. Chance for some fun. It is Kincade Salciunas, Connor, and for John today here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Embiid is out. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Over the weekend, the Sixers announced that Joel Embiid would not be medically cleared to play the rest of the regular season and the season combined if they do make the postseason. Embiid and the team are currently still in search of the best treatment for his need to return to the court as soon as possible. ESPN Shams Charania spoke on SportsCenter over the weekend and broke down exactly what's going on.
This has been a situation the 76ers have been dealing with all season, and they've managed the swelling in multiple different ways, including injections monthly just to get him on the court. But here they are in lockstep. This is all about getting Joel Embiid back on the court in the best sustainable way, and they are in lockstep about that.
The rest of the team continues on with the regular season tonight. They're going to welcome in the Portland Trailblazers. Tip-off is at 7. You can catch that game live right here on The Fanatic. The Eagles, they're in the midst of the offseason, and one of the deadlines is approaching. The franchise tag period closes tomorrow at 4 p.m., so the team's going to have to decide if they're going to use it on any of their pending free agents. Zach Bond, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Mekhi Becton, etc. Right now, it does seem unlikely, though. And the Flyers remain idle today, but they hit the ice again tomorrow when they welcome in the Calgary Flames. This update was brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app today. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Ricky Vitalico.
Why I put him in number 5? Oh, that way you could skip him.
big announcement for the station and for you coming up at 8 o'clock today. Eagles discussion going on as well as the Sixers. Are you ready to move on from Joel Embiid? If you could snap your fingers right now, because Connor's not wrong with what he's saying. It's going to be harder than that. It might not even happen because if he's getting some sort of procedure, which that's the thing that we're still waiting on, is he getting this hip realignment to try to get his leg back into a shape that he would want it to be, or is it just going to be rest? And if it's just rest, then maybe you could move on from him. But what team is going to desperately be wanting to see what they're going to probably want to see him play first.
Exactly. Like Joel Embiid is the most questionable asset in the NBA right now because of the contract and the value of the potential player, but also the injury and that's just nobody's going to trade for him until they see him on the court again. They're not. Like, that's reality. So how do you move on from him? I don't know.
Well, they might trade for him if it's, I don't know, Bradley Beal. Like,
I guess.
Who's got 2 years left on his deal. I know Embiid's got 4, but, it could depend on certain players. We literally just saw Luka Doncic get traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis because they were worried about his drinking habits.
No, I got you.
Allegedly.
But there are people bringing up, like, a medically induced retirement type of thing.
Yeah.
And if that's...
And I know that was just sort of like, what could the Sixers do? But the fact that that's been on somebody's mind, I would imagine whispers happen. There's a lot more talking than what a lot of people, I think, actually know or think. Like, you're just doing this job, you hear a lot of stuff, right? Like, it is what it is. And so that is a potential out. But that's if Joel Embiid, it all starts with Joe. Does Joel Embiid want to retire? He might not want to. He might want to try to say, hey, I keep on being doubted. I keep on hearing how bad I am for the Sixers, how bad I am for the NBA. I'm going to try to prove everybody wrong and come back. Or, and I won't blame him at all, he goes, man, I have no luck.
Right.
I got my gold medal. I'm out.
Here's what I will say, right? Because there are some people who are so out on Joel Embiid.
Have been,
for a while. That'll say there's no max contract player in the NBA that'll put you in a worse spot because you'll get someone who's more available. The injury history doesn't exist. Maybe a younger player, maybe a player with better fit. There are worse options than Joel Embiid.
Oh, there absolutely are. Like, Bradley Beal doesn't play a lick of defense, right? So, like, is that what you want? More small guards that you have with Maxey and McCain and Bradley Beal? Then you have to start thinking about whether or not a guy like Bradley Beal even makes sense for the growth of a guy like Jared McCain, if that's who the Sixers may think could be a big part of it. Or do the Sixers move on from a guy like Jared McCain, and maybe that adds to the Sixers team? Like, there are going to be options, but I just don't know how many options there are with Joel Embiid. Like, I really don't, and that's why I keep on saying just go down with the ship, because what you're going to ultimately end up doing is trading him for some sort of package that's going to go one of two ways. You're going to be disappointed by it, or you're trading for a package that you can just quickly get out of soon, expiring contracts. You deal with 1 year, and then you hope to rebuild. You hope to land some sort of star player. And we always talk about free agents and, whether or not people want to play in the city of Philadelphia. Look, I still imagine money matters a lot. You saw that with Paul George. He didn't want to come here. He wanted to stay in L.A.
Right, but he got
the
money here.
Very vocal about that on his podcast, that, R.I.P., Podcast P for now. One day it will rise again. But when you look at the situation with the Sixers, like, they're going to have money. They're going to have capital. It's going to happen eventually. I just don't know if Joel Embiid's going to be a part of it. I hope that they find a way to make this thing work, but I know that I'm the crazy one when it comes to that. Our other talking point is about the Eagles. Do you believe the Eagles are about to make a run at winning the NFC East? So let's talk about that a little bit more as you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN and WPN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. I had this thought this morning when I was thinking about the show and thinking about the Commanders acquiring Deebo Samuel and how I had very, very little fear. If anything, I chuckled at it because I think Deebo Samuel is heading toward the back end of his career. You're a little bit more worried about than I am. Much more worried about than I am because I'm
a little bit.
No, but I'm not remotely worried.
Okay,
so the fact that you have worry means that you're much more worried because I have zero worry. I laugh at it. So we know the story of the NFC East. It's been 19 years, which is amazing, by the way, since the team has won the division in back-to-back years. Now, a couple of years ago, literally a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I thought that was going to end. I thought the Eagles were going to win the NFC East back-to-back years. They were 10-1 at one point. I felt very comfortable and confident that that was going to happen. And then the collapse happened. The way this team is built, not just talent-wise, but with the youth, which is a big part of coming off of a Super Bowl victory where you had to play 21 games, right? Yeah, you played 17 regular season games and the 4 playoff games. You had to play 21 games. Not everyone played 21, but a lot of the guys played in all 21 games for the Eagles this season. There's going to be a natural fall off because it's hard to kind of recover your body so quickly because the season starts in 6 months, right? It's right around the corner. Training camp starts in a couple of months. OTAs comes even quicker. But obviously, this team is younger, which may help them. The Cowboys are not. Maybe they catch lightning in a bottle. Because Dak's going to come back and they do have weapons offensively, maybe.
I guess.
But I think they're probably another year away. The Giants aren't even close to being competitors. The Commanders are obviously the biggest threat, and I don't think, and this is, I hope people come September, October, November, remember that I've been saying this since last year before anybody, now you're saying it. Like, no, I think the Commanders are not going to be as good this upcoming season as they were last year. To me, it's the Eagles' division to lose again, and I believe this is the beginning of that early 2000s run where we see them. I'm not saying NFC East or NFC title. All right? It's usually chest day on the show. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to be back in the Super Bowl. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to be back in the NFC Championship game. I'm just talking about the division. I think it's the Eagles' division for many years to come.
You're not worried about Aaron Rodgers going to the Giants potentially?
No.
No, you're right. I mean, they have such a clear path in the, not just the NFC East, in the NFC. So I might even take it a step further than you. But as far as the division is concerned, they should run this for the foreseeable future. Like, they should have that type of run, the early 2000s, like we saw, where it was 4 straight NFC Championship games. That's a hard thing to say, they're going to do that, because that's such a lofty goal. But there's nobody standing in the way of this football team right now with the young roster they have, the GM that they have that can make anything work, the drafting that they've done. Like, they're just the perfect organization right now, and they're in a division that's pretty open outside of Washington.
Yeah, and look, the Cowboys, again, I will keep an eye on them, even though I think they're going to find a way to screw things up.
I'm snoozing on the Cowboys.
Because those are the Dallas Cowboys, but they do have some talented players on that offense. But that offensive line, I mean, one of their best offensive linemen in the franchise's history just retired this offseason. So they have a lot to recover and a lot to build. And I don't think they're going to have a quick fix, which is why I think they're probably a year away. And I think the Commanders take a step back. And so the Eagles ended up winning, 14 games in the regular season?
That is correct.
So, all right, they win 12 next year. I don't think the second-place team is winning 11. Like, I think the Eagles win the division comfortably, just like they did this year.
Yeah, and we're going to have a conversation later on in the show about the upcoming opponents for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes, we are.
And the thing that you have to remember in that as well is part of your schedule and division, you play the same paired conferences, right?
Yeah.
Or divisions, I should say. So even though Washington will have those like weird one-off opponents that'll be easier, they're going to have to play tough teams too.
We went through it last week. They're home and away, and their road schedule is tough, the Commanders. Eagles is too, but the Commanders is tough.
Yeah, nobody in this division has a cakewalk, and there's one clearly elite team, and then Washington's solid, and then everyone else stinks.
Well, and then the big thing for the Commanders next year is how does Jaden Daniels overcome the sophomore slump, because teams have tape on you now. And that's another reason why I don't think the Commanders are as good next year. All right, give us a text on the text line. You can text in at 610-632-0975. If you could snap your fingers and end the Joel Embiid era in Philadelphia, would you do it? I imagine the majority of people are saying yes this morning. And are the Eagles about to begin a run of winning the NFC East for many, many years? Much like the early 2000s, where they were winners of, I believe 4 or 5 straight divisions. Are the Eagles about to embark on a journey where they do that with this current group of players? I say they do. But what are we saying on the text line this morning?
Yeah, we got John V checking in. He says, I am not done with Embiid. I'm done thinking of him as the centerpiece. You probably can't build around Embiid, but you can build the team differently. He's now a piece instead of the piece.
Yeah, he's a piece. And that's why I keep on going back to the Shaq D. Wade thing. I believe there could come a time where Tyrese Maxey, and I'm not about to call Tyrese Maxey Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade's a Hall of Famer, right? But can Tyrese Maxey uplift his game a little bit more? The year they win the NBA Finals, 05, 06, was that the year the Miami Heat won the Finals?
Dude, your guess is as good as mine.
I think it was 05, 06, the year they won the NBA Finals. So Shaq in that season averaged 20 points, 9 rebounds a game. All right? And he was still blocking almost 2 shots a game. So he was still that rim protector, still that beast down low. He was 33 years old. So this was past his prime with the Lakers, obviously with the Orlando Magic as well. That season, Dwayne Wade was entering his 3rd year, and he averaged 27 points a game, 6 assists a game, and 5 rebounds a game. Can Tyrese Maxey be that kind of guy? And obviously Tyrese Maxey, more of a prolific three. Dwayne Wade was a 17% three-point shooter that year, right?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, exactly. He was a mid-range guy and a guy that could get to the basket, whereas Tyrese Maxey can do it pretty much all over the court, and obviously we know how well he could shoot the 3-ball. So can Tyrese Maxey, who's averaging 26 points a game right now and 6 assists a game, be that player? Can he be a little bit better next season?
Embiid can't be a piece because of the contracts. Like, one, it's a max contract slot already for Joel. So
he could be a piece.
Well, no, the problem is your other max contract slot is on Paul George,
That's
who
why
I don't think has anything left.
Who I don't think is here next year.
That's wishful thinking, man.
You got to find a way to move Paul George.
They're going to try, but there's a reality that they might not be able to move him either.
The Sixers were 5 minutes away from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, beating the Boston Celtics, and they had a piece who had a max contract in Tobias Harris.
It
could be done.
No, I just don't, like, with 2 big contracts of guys that you can't count on.
Well, that's why you got to hope the Sixers can be creative with Paul George. All right, you mentioned the opponents for the Eagles. Coming up next, look, we already knew who they were playing home and away. The Eagles put out the graphic tweet over the weekend of here are our opponents, and I saw a tweet that was so spot on. And I don't think the Eagles don't have a chance of getting back to the dance next year. I'm the one that's talking about the D word around here, but I saw a tweet that was pretty spot on that we'll get to coming up next, and we'll go through the home and away opponents for the Birds. It's Kincade and Salciunas, Connor and for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
Sixers win. Play that song.
Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Johnny is on vacation for the week. Connor Thomas filling in for him today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And then Connor's going on vacation. So then Andrew DeCecco will be co-hosting the show Thursday, Amy Fadul on Friday. Then you guys decide to grace me with your presence next week, and then I'm leaving you after that. It's that time of the year.
Yeah, we got our Super Bowl celebration vacations coming up.
Hell yeah,
everybody,
man.
Which
Exactly.
is much deserved.
Now I'm going away for work.
No, you're not. Stop it.
I'm going to spring
Stop
training.
it.
The grind continues. I don't run
You're
from
away
it.
from
I'm
work.
Damian Lillard. All right, so the Eagles' opponents, we have known this, but they posted a graphic yesterday that included Jalen Hurts and Jalen Carter and Saquon Barkley. By the way, Cooper's favorite player is Jalen Hurts. We've been playing with the football a lot out back. And he goes, I'm Jalen Hurts. I'm Jalen Hurts. And then he says, he then says, Daddy, you're Jalen Carter. He doesn't understand the offense-defense thing yet.
Yeah.
So I like bull rush him and I tackle him, and then he doesn't understand why. I go, he told me I'm Jalen Carter. Man.
Yeah, man. The
Kid's got to learn.
blitz pickups, not his strong suit yet. He'll get there, though. It took Jalen a couple years, and now he's great at it. So Cooper will develop.
But I saw a tweet in response to the opponents that I thought was very spot on. And forgive me, I didn't screenshot it, but if you're listening, you know who you are. And the person said in response to the Eagles' opponent's tweet that came out over the weekend, quote, "Thank God the Eagles won the Super Bowl." Now, look, the Eagles are a very good football team, and they're going to be very good next year as well. But I understand the reaction from somebody when they see the list of opponents. Their home games this year, obviously the division, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders. The Chicago Bears, who knows, with year one of Ben Johnson, year two of Caleb Williams, does that team look better? The Detroit Lions could be your week one opponent, and they'll be healthy. The Denver Broncos, who knows, with year two of Bo Nix and Sean Payton. The LA Rams, with the return of Matthew Stafford, who went toe-to-toe with you in the NFC divisional round of the playoffs. And then the Raiders, who will probably just get destroyed. Or that's the Panthers game where the Eagles barely win and we go, what the hell is wrong with this football team? The road games. Real quick. Home games, pretty difficult.
Yeah, not easy.
You know, the Lions coming here, the Rams coming here. We've seen the Rams twice last season.
And now that Stafford is back with the Rams as well.
Yeah, which I couldn't even believe that there was talks of him going elsewhere. I understand it was all money related, but you were one non-slip away of Tyler Higbee from potentially going to the NFC title game.
Yeah, exactly. So they should have
saying.
kept him, and they did.
Yeah. So pretty difficult home games, but the road games, this is going to be tough. Cowboys, Giants, Commanders.
Light work.
The Buccaneers, who we'll see. You know, Baker Mayfield had a hell of a season losing and was without Mike Evans for a long time, was without Chris Godwin for a long time. Do the Buccaneers, and by the way, it feels like it's every year they're in Tampa. Every year
right?
it feels like it.
What's the deal with that?
It's just, I guess, the way that it works out with who you're playing and what place you finish in. And all, I mean, you're playing a first place schedule.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's just weird. It just feels like, and it's always in Tampa.
Right. That's
Two playoff games in there, too. Skew it a little bit, too.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a tricky game for Eagles fans. I don't think the league looks at that as, wow, the place the Eagles could struggle, but we know that that's a place they've had trouble.
In Green Bay, in Kansas City, out west with the Chargers, in Minnesota, and then in Buffalo. So the road opponents are tough, and you have the extra road game this year. Last year, you had the extra home game. So when I saw the tweet, thank God the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I understood where that person was coming from. Now, look, this schedule, the Eagles could very well still win 11, 12 games and get back to the playoffs, and we saw last year alone, a year where nothing necessarily looked pretty other than the run game and obviously the defense, they made easy work of their final two playoff games en route to a Super Bowl win. It's going to be hard to repeat regardless of what your schedule is, but I understand where that person's coming from. Now, we'll see. Once the schedule comes out, how does it break? Remember, 2 years ago was the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Is it more balanced where you might be playing some difficult opponents early on in the season, then the midway point, then the end of the season? Usually the division rival games are at the end of the season, and if you're saying easy work, then that's great.
You'll probably have to get on a plane after Thanksgiving next year.
Well, that's the thing. You didn't have that travel. I was talking to my man Vince from Philly Sports Strips last week, just keeping in touch, and I asked him straight up, I was like, does the football season exhaust you? Because he goes on all the trips. He goes, dude, I haven't really been on a plane because their road games were MetLife and D.C.
Yeah, outside of New Orleans, they haven't really had to do that, and that's going to change. Here's the thing that should comfort Philadelphia Eagles fans. If you're like that person who responded to the tweet saying, thank God they won the Super Bowl, you also have to look at who they're going to be competing with as far as the teams. Now, like if you're in the AFC and you have that, like let's just say the Eagles were an AFC East team, and you're going to think about what Kansas City and Buffalo and Baltimore and all of these teams are going to do in the regular season, and do we have to get to 13 wins to find our way to a 1 seed? Do we have to get to 14 wins? Like Detroit's going to take a step back this year from what they were because of the loss of both coordinators. Minnesota is no way going to repeat what they did.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I still think Chicago isn't close. Green Bay is okay. Like, you look at the contenders in the NFC, and there's no team that you look at and say, well, that team's going to go get a guaranteed 12, 13 wins.
Right.
So, yeah, dude, you could be I think some team's going to go get 13, but 13 might be the mark for the 1 seed in the NFC this year.
Could be. And by the way, you mentioned the Commanders' schedule. We talked about this last week. Exact same home games. The only difference is they have the Seahawks and the Eagles have the Rams because the first and second place schedules. But the Commanders at home have the division games, and then Bears, Lions, Broncos, Raiders. And then the road games, all the same, except instead of Tampa, they're playing Atlanta for the second place schedule. And they have the Dolphins, whereas the Eagles have the Bills. So those are the only two differences.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough year for the NFC East, but it's not a strong conference. So if you're worried about that, you have to look at the opponents and say, who really is the juggernaut team in the NFC outside the Eagles?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
All right, love to hear from you, 610-632-0975. Coming up next, there's a note of the Myles Garrett discussion that we had last week with John that I want to address. And it's something that John said that he may be off base on. Speaking of John, it's a shame that he's not here today. But he dropped a nuclear take on Friday after the show that you did not hear. You and the rest of the world will hear it next, Connor. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Embiid is out. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Over the weekend, the Sixers announced that Joel Embiid would not be medically cleared to play the rest of the season. Embiid and the team are still currently in search of the best treatment for his knee for him to return to the court as soon as possible. ESPN's Shams Charania spoke on SportsCenter over the weekend and broke down what exactly is going on.
This has been a situation the 76ers have been dealing with all season, and they've managed the swelling in multiple different ways, including injections monthly, just to get him on the court. But here they are in lockstep. This is all about getting Joel Embiid back on the court in the best sustainable way, and they are in lockstep about that.
The rest of the team continues with their regular season tonight when they welcome in the Portland Trailblazers. Tip-off is at 7, and you can catch that game live right here on The Fanatic. The Eagles, they're in the midst of their offseason, and one of the deadlines is approaching tomorrow. The franchise tag period closes tomorrow at 4 p.m., so the team's going to have to decide if they're going to use the tag on any of their pending free agents, Zach Vaughn, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, anybody else that you can think of. Right now, it does seem unlikely, though. And the Flyers, they remain idle tonight, but they hit the ice again tomorrow when the Calgary Flames come to town. This update was brought to you by Rapid Radios. Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com now for 60% off and free UPS shipping. Add code RADIO and get an extra 5% off. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Andrew DeCecco.
Howie Roseman pinpoint.
10:05 here on Kincade Salciunas. Coming up at 8 o'clock, we got a station announcement going on for us and, of course, for you as well. So make sure you're listening coming up at 8 o'clock, as this is a Championship Monday on the Fanatic, presented to you by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com. You can text in, call in 610-632-0975. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to play some audio for you. Every day after the show, John and I, or in this case, the next couple days will be Connor and I, and then Brendan and I one day, Haley and I one day. We do this thing called post-show headlines, which is just extra content for you on our YouTube channel. And we talk about 5 topics that we might not necessarily get into on the air, or if we wanted to expand on a conversation that may have just been in passing on the show, that's our opportunity to do it. And so there was something that John Kincade said during the post-show headlines this past Friday that I will play for you coming up in a little bit in case you missed it on our YouTube feed. And if you have not seen one of those episodes yet, we would love it if you could check them out on YouTube, like and subscribe to everything that's going on with the Fanatics YouTube page. We would appreciate it. But Connor didn't hear it. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing Connor's reaction, because Connor was trying to gauge during the commercial break just how bad it was. And I can't even put it into words without it playing, which is why I said on social media, John dropped a nuclear take right before his vacation, because it was nuclear. So we'll get to that coming up in a little bit. But speaking of John, so last week when we were talking about Myles Garrett, he made a point that I understood, but I thought more about it during the weekend, and I want to credit our man Black Gritty, BG, for commenting on social media. I think it was on the Instagram, about whether or not Myles Garrett does have leverage. So John's point was that the Browns wouldn't trade Myles Garrett to the Eagles just to appease Myles Garrett. Now, I don't know how true that is, because he has been a big part of that franchise, and there are teams that do try to do right by a player because of agents down the road could help you get better players, right? If you come off as a good organization, maybe that helps you out down the road. And we already saw that the Commanders are working with Jonathan Allen to trade him to a place that he wants to go. So why wouldn't the Browns do that? But here's the real point that I'm going to get to that Black Gritty, I think, made a good point on social media. Not only does Myles Garrett want to go to a competitor, Myles Garrett will look to extend his contract. So if you are the Panthers, who are not a competitor, but the Panthers go, man, we would really love to see Myles Garrett in a Panthers jersey, we're going to call Cleveland. And so you call Cleveland. And you call to Myles Garrett's agent, his representatives. Hey, we're interested in Myles. Do you think Myles will sign that extension here? Nope. No? He wants to play for a winner. Myles Garrett could very well have a list of one team and say to every other team that calls his agent, no, I will not sign the extension. And if that then leads to, yeah, all right, fine, I'll play the first year, but I need that contract, or I'm going to hold out, because you know that 2 years left on a contract in the NFL really means 1 year left on a contract in the NFL. Myles Garrett could just straight up say, yeah, thanks for your interest, but I don't want to sign the extension there. And so that does kind of give him and his team some leverage. Not full leverage, but some leverage.
Right. He doesn't just get to pick and choose, but it's factually incorrect to say he doesn't have leverage. And it's historically proven incorrect to say a player doesn't have leverage. We've seen guys all the time go out of their way to say, I want out of this situation. I want to be in a different situation. I'm going to try and force my way to wherever. Now, if you want to say it's not likely that all of these things fall in the way for him to end up being a Philadelphia Eagle and that being his pick and him getting here and him only having one team, fair. But the guy 100%, if he didn't have leverage, you know what would be going on right now? He'd be a clear-cut member of the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
He would not be able to create this trade conversation. If he gets traded at all, and I think we all believe that he's going to get traded because he's very definitively wanting out of Cleveland, like, that is leverage. He has the leverage to force his way out of that situation. Now, if you believe that, then you have to then, on top of that, believe that he can in some way influence his destination.
Right. Now, look, the Eagles might not be his only team.
No.
All right, there's probably going to be like 5 or 6 teams because the Eagles aren't the only competitor in the NFL that could compete for a Super Bowl. But if it comes down to the deal comes with the contract extension, then he could probably have a little bit more sway in terms of what the Cleveland Browns do. Now, I don't know what the market was for Davante Adams last year. I don't remember. I don't remember other teams being in on Davante Adams. I'm sure there were. We all knew where he was going to end up going.
Exactly.
He wanted to be with his boy Rodgers, and so he went to the New York Jets.
And that wasn't like, oh, the Raiders want to do right by Davante Adams, who had, spent 3 years there?
By the way, also in the AFC,
Yeah, like,
we always worry about this whole, they're not going to want Miles to go to another AFC team, so it's going to be NFC, which, by the way, that cuts his options in half if that is the case, but that's not necessarily how it works.
no, the Eagles are not like the only team on his list, I imagine, because there are other good teams in football. But there's 0% chance that if Myles Garrett has a short list of teams he wants to play for, that the Eagles are not on it and near the top of it. A 0% chance.
Well, he straight up said it.
Yeah, right. Like,
He straight up said it on Radio Row before the Super Bowl that he would like to go to the Eagles.
So anyone who's looking at this like, wow, he can't control it. Yes, he can. Can he control it to the point that it happens? I don't know. But does he have influence? Absolutely. And as an Eagles fan in this position, that should make you feel better about their chances. Even though it may still not be likely, that helps your situation.
Now, speaking of John, and I feel bad that he's not here, but this is something that
My brain feels empty.
this is something that I can't let go now that it's on social media and it's all over the place. And you have not heard this.
I have
So,
not.
look, we're going to be fair because John is not here. So it would be very weak of a man to talk smack about somebody that can't defend themselves, especially when they're not listening. Because where he's at right now, I know he's not listening, and I don't blame him for a heartbeat. We should try calling him. Just kidding. We're not going to do that. This was on Friday. So one of our post-show headline topics was about phrases or words that John and I disagree on, like elite, contender.
Was that a 4-hour segment?
Nope. It's only 2 minutes. We have to move on. And because this came off of last week when he said the Sixers have never been a contender in the Joel Embiid era, which I think is ludicrous to say. He believes you're not a contender until you make it out of the second round of the playoffs. But everyone thinks the Thunder are a contender, and they've never done that yet. And then we got into a conversation about elite because he has different levels of elite than we may have different levels of elite. And so I asked him who his elite Philadelphia athletes of all time are and who aren't. Take a listen to 2 names that he told me on Friday that did not qualify as elite Philadelphia athletes.
I'm going to tell you, this is going to be blasphemy to you.
Okay.
Roy Halladay's on the wall of fame for the Phillies. He ain't in the elite athletes of Philadelphia for me.
How can you say that? He won a damn Cy Young. He threw a perfect
He
game,
did.
and he threw
He
no hit
did.
in the playoffs.
He did.
That's one of the worst things you've ever said in your life.
First of all, the tenure this short. Can't do it.
I would rather
Yeah,
you curse in my face and call me
Well,
a
we can do
bitch
that.
before you say that.
Question 5, I call you a bitch. Is it? No, it has to be, it involves tenure, it involves consistency, it involves excellence. Like, to me, it's got to be there. I'm going to annoy the hell out of you with this one. I'm going to annoy the hell out of you with this one. Julius Erving is there. Another guy that you idolize is not. There's a certain guy that you idolize.
Don't tell me Iverson is
Yes. It's a short window of time. A guy who didn't take his craft seriously. A guy, no, absolutely not. We disagree on this one. He's not, I'm not going to put him at the same level, someone who took their career seriously. I'm just not doing it.
So the one thing that was completely off base was short period of time with Iverson. He played it for 12 seasons.
What the hell was that?
He played it for 12 seasons. He was the leading scorer in the NBA 4 times. He was an MVP. He took the team to the NBA Finals. That was one where I wish I had more time. I understand the taking your craft seriously kind of stuff because, look, the stories of him at Hula Hands and TGI Fridays, they're there. He also led the league in minutes played 5 times in a Sixers uniform. So you can't tell me that I get it. Practice and all that kind of stuff. That dude was on the court more than he should have been because of all the injuries that he sustained.
I don't. Let me ask you something real quick. Is Allen Iverson your 1-1 Philly athlete of all time? Like,
what do you mean?
Is he your favorite? Any sport, any team, any player?
J-Roll.
J-Roll.
But
okay,
Iverson's second.
Okay, because for me, Halladay is 1. And the fact that he went Halliday Iverson, I wonder if he was trying to just throw a nuke at us his vacation week.
Before he left.
That is one of the most insane, unfounded takes that I've ever heard in my life. To say that Roy Halladay and Allen Iverson are not elite Philadelphia athletes. And for the Halladay thing, where if he was making the argument, well, he was elite, but here he wasn't here long enough. All right, you can make some semblance of an argument you're still going to be wrong on. The Allen Iverson thing is one of the most insane things I've ever heard sports-wise.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's probably best that he went away on vacation after dropping that one. And when he comes back, maybe we'll bring it back up. I don't know.
We might have to.
Hopefully the post is still circulating come the time he returns, because that was an insane thing to say.
Goodness.
But he believes it. It got some reaction. I was getting text messages from coworkers of ours about it. But yeah, it got to the point. The Halladay one was so bad that Brendan didn't even listen to the whole thing. Brendan thought the whole minute was about Roy Halladay. He didn't even know that Iverson was also mentioned. Coming up next, check your text messages on anything that you want to talk about.
But not Allen Iverson, Roy Halladay eliteness.
But also,
that's an easy discussion.
Ruben Frank on NBC Sports Philadelphia had a blurb in his story about Bryce Huff and whether or not the Eagles can salvage him. The Eagles might have to. We'll talk about it next. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
Do you not think that the people that came up with the tush push
7:41 here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. We got a station announcement for you coming up at 8 o'clock, so make sure you're listening then. A cool event that we like to do often, and that's your little teaser for it. But I want to check our text line here in a little bit, but also this article from NBC Sports Philadelphia with Ruben Frank, it was about Bryce Huff. And the headline of the article was, "Can the Eagles salvage Bryce Huff?" Now, this was one of his Rube's observations, where he has like the 10 different observations. But the first one was about Bryce Huff. So I want to read it to you. And the very first sentence is, "Maybe I'm delusional, but..." That's how it starts.
I'm going to tell you right now before I hear this, and I may change my opinion after the full read, but I think I'm in agreement with Rube on this one.
Okay. And that's why I said you might have to try to salvage it. But here's what Rube had to say about Bryce Huff, the Eagles' biggest free agent signing last year in terms of finances, not obviously in terms of name. That was Saquon. He says, "Maybe I'm delusional, but I actually think there's a chance Bryce Huff can be a functional contributor next year." A couple of things. This is a guy who produced in the NFL, 10 sacks last year with the Jets. He seemed to have trouble picking up Vic Fangio's scheme, but he was starting to turn the corner when he broke his wrist. He had 2.5 sacks in his last 6 games before having the surgery, and he played a couple of those games after getting hurt. Not exactly Clyde Simmons stuff here, but he was showing up and starting to look comfortable in a new scheme. The analytics aren't awful with Huff. Pro Football Focus, hold on a second.
Excuse you.
Pro Football Focus had him with a 68.3 grade, which ranked him 44th out of 116 edge rushers who played at least 250 snaps. You always take those grades with a grain of salt or a grain of poop. That's me ad-libbing there.
I figured that wasn't good.
But there could be something there. Huff was never the same after the surgery, and he barely played in the postseason. 13 snaps, 12 of them in mop-up duty at the end of the NFC Championship game. In the likely event Brandon Graham retires and Josh Sweat signs elsewhere, the Eagles will need Huff to pay off to some degree on that 3-year, $51 million contract, and I still think there's a shot that happens, or maybe I'm just nuts. Now, the part that I agree the most in that entire blurb from Rube was the fact that if Brandon Graham or Josh Sweat are gone, you need Huff to pay off.
You do.
That's the only part I agree on that entire paragraph.
Kind of pay off. You don't need him to be the player you pay.
No, just be a rotational guy like Jalix Hunt.
Right.
But the sad thing is Jalix Hunt's a second-round or a third-round project at a Houston Christian, a former safety, now an edge rusher. This guy's a top-paid edge rusher for the Eagles.
Yeah, and I'm going to just real quick take you through the Bryce Huff experience this year coming to Philadelphia. So he comes into Philly. It's a brand-new scheme to him. Brand new scheme to everybody on the team with Vic Fangio, even though the Eagles had kind of run similar schemes in the past. So some guys who were here might have had the advantage over that, knowing a little bit of the ins and outs of the way he likes to run defenses with Sean Desai the year before. Mm-hmm. So you come into a new situation, the first different team you've been on in your time in the NFL, and you're behind the 8 ball. And then you don't learn the system fast enough. And Vic Fangio doesn't strike me as a guy, maybe I have this wrong, but he doesn't strike me as a guy with a lot of patience. So the next thing you know, you've got a team with championship aspirations and a guy who's lagging behind the group. Mm-hmm. So he gets put behind the 8 ball, and then it's hard for him to get the faith of the DC. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's kind of where it seemed like he was. And then, well, the team starts winning after week 4. And at that point, it's just like, okay, we're sticking with the guys that are getting the job done. It's going to be harder and harder for you to get time. You get hurt. You come back. You're not the same guy. It's not like Bryce Huff was in a perfect situation for him and everything was pointing his way and he just completely crapped the bed. Like, there are justifications for why he may not have played as well as you would have expected. There's no justification for him being a nothing this past year.
Right.
But if you say, okay, 1 year, I'd like to see if this guy can contribute something in the next one, I don't think that's crazy at all.
Look, and you might have to, right? We talk about Joel Embiid today and how there might be no other path than to just keep on going down with the ship, because what are you going to actually get for him? It's the same thing with Bryce Huff. What are you going to eat his contract for a 7th-round pick when it's a position of need? You have 2 edge rushers right now. If you take Bryce Huff off this team, you have Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt. And look, that's why we're excited about the idea of Myles Garrett, and that's why you expect them to draft an edge rusher if they don't get Myles Garrett at some point this draft, or at least another guy on the defensive line, because you need it. You have two guys right now when Josh Sweat leaves and if Brandon Graham retires. So you might need Bryce Huff to be there, just as a body.
But with the Joel Embiid comparison, this would be like if Embiid had trouble contributing because of whatever reason, and your backup was getting you 20 and 10. Like, the other guys around, like Bryce Huff doesn't have to be the guy. Joel Embiid does. Bryce Huff just has to go out there and be a usable player on the edge, and they're still going to address the position.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've been talking about Myles Garrett for a reason, folks. They need edge rushers outside of the guys that they have on the roster right now.
Right.
I think you can get something out of Bryce Huff to the point where, could Bryce Huff this year be what Jalix Hunt was last year? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that you can get that type of year.
He should be better.
Right. And even if you just get that and you bring in another starting edge rusher, you can win a Super Bowl with that type of rush.
So the one part in the story that I laugh at from Rube, and I respect Rube and his work. He's great. So this is not me taking shots at Rube by any means. But he does he had 2.5 sacks in his last 6 games before having the surgery. The 2.5 sacks is a stretch. So he had half a sack against Cleveland. This is week 1 of this 6-week stretch. A sack against the Giants, which is week 2 of this 6-week stretch. So that's 1.5. And then he didn't have a sack for another 2 games. Then he had one in the blowout win against the Cowboys when they won 34-6. And then he didn't have one against the Commanders. So we're stretching a little bit to try to get the 2.5 sack mark.
Yeah, so we got what? Daniel Jones, Cooper Rush, and
I don't know if it was
Watson?
Deshaun Watson or if it because Watson got hurt that game. So it was either Deshaun Watson or whoever or Jameis Winston.
He's not tracking down Mahomes or Lamar over here.
But it's like, I understand. Factually, he is correct. He had 2.5 sacks in his last 6 games before the surgery, but it was a stretch to get that other full sack.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes out this year and gives you, I don't know,
5.5 to 6 sacks.
That's what I'm saying. 40% of the snaps, 5 sacks. That's fine. And I think you can get that from that guy.
It's fine if he can set the edge, which was something that he could not do with his time in the Jets and clearly was not doing early on in Philadelphia. And Vic Fangio was not afraid to say that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where he's got to improve. There's work absolutely to be done with Bryce Huff, but he's not a get him off the team guy. He's you have to find something with this dude. And I think they can.
It might not be a desperately get him off the team, but if you could package him for something,
well, yeah, but
you do it.
Are you trading for the contract?
Well, it's a big part of it. All right, coming up next, we'll reset the show. 8 o'clock, we have the station announcement that we will tell you about, so we're looking forward to that. Today's headlines with Brendan Gunn comes your way around 8:12, and a whole lot more. Kincade Salciunas, Connor in for John for the next couple of days here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Embiid is out. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Over the weekend, the Sixers announced that Joel Embiid would not be medically cleared to play the rest of the season. Embiid and the team are still currently in search of the best treatment for his knee to return to the court. ESPN Shams Charania spoke on SportsCenter over the weekend and broke down exactly what is going on.
This has been a situation the 76ers have been dealing with all season, and they managed the swelling in multiple different ways, including injections monthly just to get him on the court. But here they are in lockstep. This is all about getting Joel Embiid back on the court in the best sustainable way, and they are in lockstep about that.
They'll be without the big fella tonight, but the rest of the team continues on with their season tonight when they welcome in the Portland Trail Blazers to the Wells Fargo Center. Tip-off is at 7. You can catch that game live right here on The Fanatic. The Eagles, they're in the midst of their offseason. One of the deadlines is approaching. The franchise tag period closes tomorrow at 4 p.m., so the team's going to have to decide if they will use it on any of their pending free agents. Zach Vaughn, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat. You get the gist of it. Right now, it does seem unlikely, though, that they will use it. And the Flyers, they remain idle today, but they hit the ice again tomorrow against the Calgary Flames at home at the Wells Fargo Center as well. This update was brought to you by Moyer Indoor and Outdoor Services. Follow Andrew Salciunas' lead. Get a jump on a lush green lawn this spring. Right now, go to eMoyer.com for free estimates. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Vacation? Business trip? Don't worry.
at 8 o'clock, we will give you our station announcement, something that we are excited for every single year. But I want to check out the text line that we got coming in this morning, Brendan, on any of our topics today. Joel Embiid, as of Friday, officially done for the season. If you could snap your fingers and put an end to the Joel Embiid era with the Philadelphia 76ers, would you do it? I'm against it because I'm going to keep on living in fantasy land that at some point he's going to be healthy in the playoffs, and I have seen him be the best basketball player on the court in the entire league before when he won MVP and probably could have won a second one. I saw him last year before getting hurt have a historic start to a season. I remember every night Kate and Ala would interview him after the game, be like, do you know that you're the first person since Michael Jordan to do this? You know you're the first person since Wilt Chamberlain to do that? And then he got hurt. And that's a same old story with Joel Embiid. I know, and that's why I don't blame anybody who says they are ready to move on. I'm not. I'm going to go down with the ship. Also, are you in the belief that the Eagles are about to begin a journey of winning the NFC East year in and year out, much like they did back in the early 2000s? Because I think that they are. Obviously, they're talented. The youth plays a big part of it. And I'm not scared of the Cowboys or Giants, and I don't think that the Commanders can have another offseason where they were as successful as they were last year, building a team with a bunch of one-year guys, and I'm not even remotely worried about Deebo Samuel. Connor, on the other hand.
I don't like it. I don't know if worry's the word I'd use.
You stay up at night thinking about Deebo Samuel, apparently.
I don't. I sleep very soundly. Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles have me snoozing like no worries.
Deebo, I laughed when it happened. I was like, all right, go ahead. Have fun with this. What do we got in the text line, Gunner?
Yeah, I want to preface this by saying I do not agree with this guy, but there's a lot of people in the fan base that think this way, I guess, so I'm a vessel for the people. It's not my thoughts. I'm just saying what they say. Yeah. But he says, bye-bye, Mopey Joel. Dude has never been a Philly guy. Such a fake tough guy. All he does is want to troll, but he never wants to smoke. Joel Embiid is soft as baby poop emoji.
Yeah, see, that's where you're an idiot.
Yeah, I'm just wrong.
Like, and I saw a lot of tweets after the news broke on Friday that I believe are spot on, at least I think. 10 years from now, I think there will be people that finally realize how good Embiid was. Like, I watched the highlight package of Embiid that somebody posted, and I get it. It's highlights, so it's not the lowlights. Joel Embiid doing things as a 7-foot center with handles that guards have, with handles that wing players have. And a lot of people just ignore it because they don't like the mopey attitude. I call the mopey attitude out all the time. I'm not afraid to do it. Like, I hate his attitude at times. Doesn't mean he's not talented. And to call him soft, if you want to say you believe his body is soft, fine. We can have that conversation. But to call an individual soft that I'm sure if you said that, you wouldn't say it to his face. That man has played through countless injuries. And don't give me the whole every player is injured toward the end of the season. No. The dude had an orbital fracture twice. Played through it twice. Rushed back for the playoffs from the meniscus surgery last year. And was the best player, again, on the court for the Philadelphia 76ers. I know people in the here and now don't like hearing it. It's like when I talk about I wouldn't blame him for retiring. I feel bad for him as an individual, as a human. There are people that can't put aside athlete and humans when it comes to anything, not just health, politics, you name it. Like, they are also humans. They have human feelings. They're not robots. The only robot in professional sports might be Jalen Hurts.
Kawhi Leonard, too.
And Kawhi Leonard, too. You're right.
The OG.
Everyone else is human. All right, so Joel Embiid has feelings, and I can only imagine injury after injury after injury eventually weighs on you to the point where you can't do it anymore. For anybody to call him soft, look, I know if I have a hangnail, I'm about to cry. So if I were to call Joel Embiid soft, I would be the biggest hypocrite in the world. And I imagine that person that texted me probably works hard for their money, probably works through pain, probably gets sick and comes into work, doesn't call out, and I get it. But this dude's playing with major injuries.
Yeah, he's not soft.
He's not playing with a hangnail. He's playing with torn ligaments and fractured faces and playing through it.
He doesn't get tired and not show up to work. Like, he's out there busting his ass.
Think about the amount of players that have played less games than Joel Embiid over the last 5 years. There are.
Right.
And other stars. I saw Kawhi Leonard's name pop up in a box score the other day. I was like, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Like, that's a guy that doesn't play.
Kawhi, AD.
Yeah.
Like, there are plenty of other guys that are hurt out there. And what that is, if you don't like the guy, fine. Whatever. Like, if you want to move on from him, fine. But that would be like the people criticizing Jalen Hurts this past year as a quarterback, and their main argument is he can't run. Like, it's just stupid. Like, it's a dumb take on this player.
But I know that's how people feel, and a lot of it's built out of frustration. I understand it. And that's why I say I don't blame anybody for wanting to move on. I don't blame anybody for being exhausted, but I do think it's completely out of line to call a guy like that soft. And look, there's people on social media all about it. When I tweeted it, when the report came out that he may have his hip realigned, I straight up said it. I was like, if anybody calls this guy soft again, like you're crazy. And the amount of people that responded with, he is soft. I want you to realign your hip just for the hell of it, and tell me how you feel.
Right. Like, people on the YouTube chat right now are saying he lacks motivation. Okay, if we want to have that conversation,
go for it.
That's different. But he's not soft, guys.
No,
he's not.
No, the word soft, it gets thrown out willy-nilly a lot. All right, listen to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPN, WPN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. And time for the station announcement. That's a lot of fun for us, and it's also a lot of fun for you. 23 days from now, Wednesday, March 26th, Knockout is back on the court, Wells Fargo Center with the Sixers. Obviously, every single day you get to listen for a keyword for every single show. Here, Kincade and Salciunas, Mike Missanelli show, and the best show ever. You'll enter that keyword on the contest page, 975thefanatic.com, by the end of the day. And we pick a winner from each show every day this week to compete with the Fanatic host. So a little bit different this year. We're doing it daily, 3 times a day, for you to enter it on our website, 975thefanatic.com. You know, I'm sure there's going to be other ways to win. I'm sure General Knowledge Wednesday with the Mike Missanelli show, there's going to be a chance. I'm sure we're going to have prize packs to give away over the course of the shows here live on the air. But this is something that we're going to be doing on a daily basis for your chance to win the knockout tickets. And, of course, the pair of tickets to go see the game. Sixers will be playing the Wizards that night. And then knockout will be afterward. Your guest gets to watch from the stands and stick around, so it's not like they're forced to leave. So check out 975thefanatic.com for all the details. So let's give out that keyword. The Fanatic Knockout Tournament, Wednesday, March 26th. Enter today's keyword, which is basketball. How about that? Go to 975thefanatic.com for your chance to win a spot. Again, the keyword is basketball. You have until the end of the day to enter it. Each winner gets a pair of tickets for the game versus the Wizards that night. And after the game, of course, you will play knockout. I have never missed a knockout in the Fanatics' history of having knockout.
Yeah, it's a great event. You never know what you're going to see. Last year, the game that ended up being the knockout game was not only Roscoe Dash at halftime, which was awesome.
ROSCO, Mr. Shaw, he put it on me.
Great work by you. It was the Kelly Oubre game where he's yelling at the refs after the game.
Oh, that's right. Calling everybody
your mom,
a bitch.
Your grandma.
Yeah.
And I think we're branding this year. I got to confirm.
They should have won that game, by the way.
They should have. I got to confirm this with
Clippers.
management. But I think they're branding knockout this year the Thomas Invitational because
Tom Alvord won it last year, and he's not here anymore.
No. Tom Alvord was the station champion. But
that's right.
But my younger brother, Chase, won it.
That's right.
And I was the knockout champion for the staff the year before. So I don't know. The Thomas brothers have been handling knockout pretty heavily.
Well, you should say Thomas, including Tom Alvord.
Well, I don't know if he's going to be there.
No, but I'm saying the Thomas invitation.
I don't know if he
Invitational.
counts. I don't know if he counts.
He beat your ass last year. Of course he counts.
He beat me by one person. I was the runner-up.
He
It's
beat
not like
you.
I got smoked. I'm coming for my title this year. So if you want to try and defend the honor of everyone who wants me to lose, I'd love to see it.
So go to the Fanatics website, 975thefanatic.com. Enter keyword basketball. You'll get a keyword on the Mike Missanelli show as well, and a keyword during the best show ever. So 3 ways for you to win in a single day, and we're going to be doing this every single day up until the event, which is on March 26th, Wednesday, March 26th, Sixers-Wizards that day. It's a lot of fun. I know the state of the team has been very, very disappointing, but it's really cool. Like I mentioned, I've never missed a knockout, right? It is still really freaking awesome to step on that court. I get to do it once a year, and it's something that I truly cherish. So there's a lot of people who have never had the opportunity to play knockout on the Sixers court. Like, you're literally shooting a basketball in the same net that Joel Embiid did shoot in.
Back in the day.
Like, it's awesome. So
no, it's a really
nice
cool
night out. We like to hang out with you guys. Obviously, you get to bring a guest as well. So make sure you try to win it on 97.5thefanatic.com. All right, what else do we have on the text line, Gunner, about any of our topics?
Yeah, well, we thought John was insane for his take, but maybe he had a righteous take. We got Father Sean checking in saying he agrees with John and everything he said about Roy Halladay and Allen Iverson. We also got Tucker checking in saying Bryce Huff is a bust. He had one good year with the Jets during his contract year. He's a poor man's Reddick, assuming he's talking about Hassan Reddick, that is often injured. He's not a rotational pass rusher at best. He could be that maybe next year.
All right, I like that.
I think that's a little, and I know we don't have anything in an Eagles uniform to go on. That's a little harsh on Bryce Huff. Like, I'm not going to pretend like he doesn't have a double-digit sack season in the NFL under his belt. He's not a bust, right? He had a bad year in his first year with the Philadelphia Eagles. But there is definitive statistics to tell you that this guy was, even if it was just 1 year, a talented pass rusher at the NFL level. It was 2023, right?
What year was it in his career?
It was year 3.
Was it his contract year?
It was a contract year. Okay, so guys just let him get to the quarterback because it's his contract year? Like, it's not like he had 6 sacks. He had 10.
He had 2 his rookie year, 2 his second year, 3.5 his third year, 10.
I got you. But, like, saying rotational, like,
what have I said about
he could be a rotational guy.
What have I said about Josh Sweat? Somebody's going to make a mistake and pay him a lot of money this offseason. I'm happy for him. I hope he gets the bag. Thank you for the Super Bowl. You could have won MVP of the Super Bowl.
I'm not saying he's a Pro Bowler. I'm not saying he's a starter. But I'm saying if you don't think you can get something out of that guy, I think that's short-sighted.
Well, he might get something. Like 3
No, you're
sacks.
going to get something.
All right, coming up next. So Father Sean sent in that text about Iverson. He also tweeted me this weekend. So I want to do something off of that when it comes to Joel Embiid. But also Iverson, because clearly there are some people that feel the same way as John. One whole person. But the Joel Embiid generational discussion, it hit me this weekend, Connor. All right? So we'll do that coming up next. We have today's headlines with Brendan Gunn as well. You can climb in on any of our topics at 610-632-0975. It is a championship Monday morning here on Kincade and Salciunas. Connor and for John for the next couple of days here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli, Bill Colarulo, and Ray Dunn. They have a
headlines with Brendan Gunn, because Gunner is in Connor's seat today. I had a realization this weekend about the Joel Embiid discussion. By the way, there's somebody on our YouTube chat, Connor told me, that's upset with us because we're softies for simping for Joel Embiid. That's why I don't look at the chat, because of nonsense like that. Because you don't think that you think Joel Embiid's soft because he gets hurt, and you ignore the fact that he plays with broken bones in his face, his fingers, his ligament damage. It's all right. It's all right. You're a tough guy. You're Mr. Tough Guy, and that's great. I'm sure all your friends talk about how you're the toughest guy in your group. So Joel Embiid, I think, is a generational thing. And here's why. If you're our age, I'm 31, Connor's 30. Gunner, you're how old?
31.
You're 31.
You guys are old farts.
If you're of our generation, all right, and if you're probably 30 to maybe like 37, 38, I got to do the correct math here, or maybe even early 40s. We've seen 2 legit all-stars play for the Sixers. And when I say legit all-stars, I mean guys that were here, right? Like, okay, James Harden was an all-star with the Sixers, but that was for 5 minutes, right?
Right, like Jimmy Butler was here a year.
Right. So I don't think of Jimmy Butler as a Sixer. I don't think of James Harden as a Sixer. We've seen 4 all-stars that were consistent. One of them was Andre Iguodala, who might go to the Hall of Fame more so because of what he did with the Golden State Warriors. Not here with the Philadelphia 76ers, even though he had a decent career. Ben Simmons. We all know how that went.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the fall-off was legendary. Allen Iverson and Joel Embiid. Like, those are the 4 consistent all-stars that were, you think of that person as a Sixer. And not many people think of Andre Iguodala as a Sixer. They think of him as a Warrior, right? The generation that's like 50-plus had Moses Malone, Andrew Toney, Mo Cheeks, and Dr. J on the same team. Like, Hall of Famers.
Right.
And so when they hear us talk about Embiid, they think we're crazy because they saw 4 guys on one team that were all-stars consistently. They played through everything. And there's an even older generation that can talk about wilt. We have no knowledge of that.
No, like, just to put a round number on it, in basically the past 40 years, Joel Embiid is the most talented player to put on a Sixers uniform.
Correct.
That's why some people defend him the way they do.
Right. Because it's been bad. Now, look, Joel Embiid, because I know there are Sixers fans that are haters of Joel Embiid, is also that for the league. He won an MVP. He was a runner-up 2 times. He was a scoring champion 3 times. He was setting records last year. So Joel Embiid, from a league standpoint, is also elite. But I understand a little bit more now this weekend, just thinking about it, why maybe an older group of Sixers fans, and it's not just the my generation was tougher than yours thing. Your generation was better when it comes to Sixers basketball. You had a title. I've never experienced that in my life. I've seen them get to one because of one man, Allen Iverson. But other than that, in my lifetime, I've seen 4 consistent all-stars, and only 2 of them are like legit in Joel Embiid and Allen Iverson. So I kind of understand why there's an older generation that goes, why are you so staunch to defend this guy when you could talk more about Moses Malone and Dr. J and Andrew Toney? I wasn't around.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't see those guys. This is our guy, and he's come up short, but it's not to stand in the face of his talent level.
But people have an issue getting past that because they saw champions.
I get it.
All right, it's time now for today's headlines with Brendan Gunn.
Today's headlines with the one and only Brendan Gunn.
Wow, a special open for Gunner. And how about a sponsorship?
Would you look at that? So today's headlines is now brought to you by Lundy Law. For over 70 years, Lundy Law has been fighting for injured people. If you need them, remember the name Lundy Law. Your injury lawyers, visit LundyLaw.com. That's LundyLaw.com.
I love that. Headline sponsored, and the first day of it is not with Connor. What do we got, Gunner?
I almost thought I hit the wrong button because I was not expecting different music. music on it. They told me I got my own. I thought it was going to be the same music.
How about that?
We are in the midst of the NFL offseason. Franchise tag period closes tomorrow. Combine wrapped up over the weekend. And last offseason, our friends down or up I-95, the New York Giants appeared on HBO's Hard Knocks offseason. And that became relevant again over the weekend. But I'll play you a little clip from last year just to relive it.
What's the latest? Just on the Saquon thing.
I just got a text that Chicago's driving the price up and Philly's out. I don't know if that's true or not.
I'm going to have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia. I'll tell you that. As I've told you, just being out.
Well, they made themselves look like such big of fools last year on NFL Hard Knocks offseason. Not a single NFL team wants to do it this year. It's going to be UNC and Bill Belichick in the college ranks.
As predicted by yours truly during the season. I said on the show, I don't see why a team would want to do it because the numbers were going down. They started doing the in-season Hard Knocks, which is a little bit different. And I said, I don't know what team would want to do it after this year. They made that team look like a fool. And they were doing their job. It's not like they were trying to make them look like a fool.
They didn't make them look like anything. The Giants made themselves
The Giants
look
did it
like
to
a fool.
themselves, but I'm not surprised by this at all because if you're let's say you're a free agent. I get it. Money always talks. But if you're a free agent, it's down to two teams.
Hard Knocks or no Hard Knocks.
There's clips like that circulate.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait, do I really want to play for that team?
Exactly.
It's worse. It's one thing if they just thought, hey, we got to move on from Saquon. Just like how the Sixers might say it's time to move on from Joel Embiid. It's the way they talked about him in those clips.
Yeah, and their best, most likable player who's a great leader, all-around great person. Oh, by the way, just had the greatest single season.
By the way, the phone call that they made to tell him, that was on the show. He had no idea it was on the show.
Right, like it was a mess.
Players talk.
I'm interested in what Hoodie's doing down there in Chapel Hill, so I'll be watching.
Oh, he's just going to the local bars with his girlfriend. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Right. I want to see how she's wearing her jacket.
Now, the one
put
thing
it over her shoulders this time.
The one thing that makes this even worse, I didn't realize it till you played it there. GMs are just like us. Well, there's a report about this, but I don't know how true it is. You mean to tell me they didn't actually know?
Yeah, I guess not.
Man, so there's a report that says the Eagles are out. I don't know how much I believe that.
I told you, man.
They are just like us.
Yes, they are. I've been fighting that fight for a long time.
What else we got?
Speaking of looking like fools, Nick Sirianni was at the Sixers game on Saturday, and he was standing around with his hands in his pocket, looked like an idiot. When Steph Curry went up to Jared McCain, and then he completely ignored Nick Sirianni. And Nick Sirianni was staring him down. Is this some fake news?
You fell for it.
No.
There was a photo before warm-ups where Steph took a photo with Nick and his entire family.
Oh, no.
So they already had the greeting. They took family photo. They spoke with one another. That was later on when he saw Jared McCain
I got Centelled.
Oh, my goodness. The first day sponsored, and we've got Centelled on headlines.
Technically, he's right, but
the video looked awful.
Before it was... Everybody thought it was another exciting White's LeBron James moment.
Yes.
But Sirianni and his family actually spent time with Steph before the game started.
See, usually I'm Connor's safety net, and I ran this by him, and then because he didn't see it either.
I didn't see it.
So I was like, damn, all right.
Don't worry. I'm not a good safety net.
The credibility of the show stands with me. I got it.
All right, we're going to do the Tankathon sim lottery that Connor's introduced to the show.
Maybe you're better. Maybe you're better at it.
Quentin Grimes did kind of, he won the game.
He hurt the cause.
He hurt the cause, but maybe they can make the postseason. Who knows? Sixers in this one. They get the second pick.
All right.
Dylan Harper.
He's already
out
better.
of Rutgers. Wow.
Yeah, that'd be great. I love it.
All right, I don't hate that.
I don't like that you got two because now it makes me look like I'm bad at simulating.
Listen,
I said that you were bad at simulating.
Random.
I left you some room to get up there. I'll wrap it up with the replay now.
Are you done with Joel Embiid?
And I just want to flip it. Is there a shot Joel Embiid has done, not with us, the fans, not with the city of Philadelphia, but the Sixers as an organization, when you hear reports that he had to go to ownership to finally get his need not cleared?
We'll replay that report from Sham Charania coming up next because you might be on to something. That's why I asked the question whether or not this situation could get messy. We'll play that for you coming up next. Also coming up next, speaking of national media, Colin Cowherd said something wild about an Eagles player and why they should trade him. Yeah, the team that just won the Super Bowl. Also, another national media member talked about how close the Super Bowl actually was. So next segment, you'll actually get some real reporting from Shams and then some ridiculous national media hot take epidemic continues It is Kincade Salciunas, Connor and for John here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Embiid is out. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Over the weekend, the Sixers announced that Joel Embiid would not be medically cleared to play the rest of the season. Embiid and the team are still currently looking in search of the best treatment for his need to return to the court as soon as possible. ESPN Shams Charania spoke on SportsCenter over the weekend and broke down exactly what's going on with Embiid and the team.
Are you done?
This has been a situation the 76ers have been dealing with all season, and they've managed the swelling in multiple different ways, including injections monthly, just to get him on the court. But here they are in lockstep. This is all about getting Joel Embiid back on the court in the best sustainable way, and they are in lockstep about that.
The rest of the team, though, they can continue the regular season tonight when they welcome in the Portland Trail Blazers down at the Wells Fargo Center. Tip-off is at 7. You can catch that game live right here on The Fanatic. The Eagles, they're in the midst of the offseason, and one of the deadlines is approaching. The franchise tag period closes tomorrow at 4 p.m., so the team's going to have to decide if they will use it on any of their pending free agents, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Zach Vaughn, etc. Right now, it does seem unlikely. And the Flyers, they remain idle today, but they hit the ice again tomorrow when the Calgary Flames come to town. This update is brought to you by Groundworks, your expert for basement waterproofing and foundation repair since 1997. Book your free inspection today at groundworks.com. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Philadelphia Sports.
Touchdown! Saquon!
Monday morning here on the Fanatic, presented to you by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com. If you missed it, at 8 o'clock, we announced the big announcement on the station, Knockout returning for another year. Wednesday, March 26th, Sixers battling the Wizards. And, of course, you get to play Knockout on the court afterward. Our keyword today was basketball. Enter that on 975thefanatic.com for your chance to win the pair of tickets and, of course, the spot on Knockout, something that's really fun that we've been doing for a long time here on the Fanatic. Always love being a part of it. Now, before
you even have a chance to win second place this year, right behind me.
Before we get to the hot takes, which that's one of them, before we get to Colin Cowherd and another member of the national media with just nonsense being spewed, and I think I kind of understand the reason why, but we'll get to that coming up in a little bit because nobody is safe from being clipped, your quotes on social media. But in case you missed it, Shams Charania over the weekend was reporting on Joel Embiid being done for the season. And Brendan asked the question at the end of headlines there about not just are you done with Joel Embiid, but is Joel Embiid done with the Sixers? Take a listen as to why Brendan might have that question. I said earlier in the 6 o'clock hour that this could become messy depending on how things play out. Take a listen to Shams talking about Embiid.
This all came to a head over the last couple of weeks, specifically when I'm told Joel Embiid went directly to 76ers owner Josh Harris about the state of his knee and the realization he's at with what's in the best interest of him, the organization, as far as a potential shutdown. Because remember, Josh Harris owes Joel Embiid up to $300 million over the next 5 seasons. So the backdrop to all this is that over the last month, we've seen fundamental differences between Joel Embiid and the 76ers as far as Embiid believing that he needs a different treatment approach for this versus the 76ers feeling you play on it, get in better condition, and you could continue on this year. This has been a situation the 76ers have been dealing with all season, and they've managed the swelling in multiple different ways, including injections monthly, just to get him on the court. But here they are in lockstep. This is all about getting Joel Embiid back on the court in the best sustainable way, and they are in lockstep about that.
So how long was that clip, Gunner?
53 seconds.
The final 5 seconds, they were in lockstep. The first 48, they had disagreements. Embiid had to go over the head of everybody to go talk to Josh Harris about the state of his knee. And then you heard how the team doctors believed that if Embiid kept on playing through it, that he would get into better shape, which would then help the swelling, which would then get better. That could be true. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, I don't know.
But clearly Embiid did not agree with the plan. And so if he feels like he's being forced into doing something when it comes to his body, when it comes to his health, and I get it, listening to doctors is good. I do that.
I occasionally do.
But if he's feeling the pain, and again, I watched that Celtics game. He had rest, plenty of rest during the All-Star break. I watched that man look like an old man on the court. He did not look like that knee was necessarily keeping him upright.
Yeah, like he knows his body. He knows how he feels when he goes out there. And if he's like, I'm not able to go, like, I'm not good, we got to do something else here, he would be the number one expert on how he's feeling, right? So you have to trust him, and it does kind of stink that he had to go to the owner to get what he needed to get done. I don't know where that goes from there.
Yeah, so we'll see how it plays out. You could text in any of our topics at 610-632-0975. But now let's complain about what is said outside of Philadelphia. Colin Cowherd, I don't think this was on The Herd. I think this was on his podcast because he owns that podcast network. But regardless of where it was said, here was Colin Cowherd talking about why the Eagles should trade A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I'm about over chatty wide receivers calling out quarterbacks. Like, let's be honest about this team with Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley in that O-line. You could move off A.J. Brown. He's very, very good. No, I love him. I love DK Metcalf. Seattle could move off him. I think he's very, very good player, but I think wide receiver is Buffalo proved it. Kansas City proved it.
Buffalo hasn't won anything. KC has Patrick Mahomes. Like, you're willing to move off A.J. Brown right now? Or
no, I'm saying they have to move off players. Howie Roseman has come out in the last 48 hours and said it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very... Just be patient with us. They've got to move off a couple of big pieces. Are you going to pay a linebacker? Are you going to pay that linebacker big money?
No, you can find a linebacker. You can't find an A.J. Brown.
No, but I can find 80% of A.J. Brown.
That's easier said than done, Colin. I like Colin Cowherd a lot in terms of his professionalism and how he got to where he's at.
Yeah, he always wears his hats forward, never backwards.
Yeah, that's nonsense. And I get the point that he's trying to make. Like, you have enough weapons that you would be okay. I have seen when A.J. Brown is not on the field how bad this offense looks. You know the Lane Johnson record of when he's not on the field? I'm curious what the A.J. Brown record is when he's not on the field, because not only is he the best wide receiver on the team, even though Devontae Smith's spectacular, he's also Jalen's favorite target. So now you're taking away your quarterback's favorite target. You're taking away Tyreek Hill from Patrick Mahomes. Now, he won a Super Bowl, granted, but that's Patrick Mahomes. You're taking away Devontae Adams from Aaron Rodgers back in the prime days of the Green Bay Packers.
They lost one game he played this year, and it was the Commanders game where Hurts got hurt. That was the only game they lost where A.J. Brown played this year.
Like, A.J. Brown's record with the Eagles, they lose games when he's not on the field. And, oh, by the way, he throws out Dallas Goedert, who's probably not going to be here after this year. So now you're losing both A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert after a season, and you're going to try to find a way to replace both of their statistics, which is a lot. It's a big part of their offense. You're right, Colin. The offensive line's great. You could probably win a couple of games without A.J. Brown. That's when he's hurt. But over the course of the season, you see the differences when he's on the field and when he's not on the field. That's a crazy opinion to have.
It is, and more than that, like, take the A.J. Brown thing out of the conversation, because that's just flat out crazy. I don't know how you get to that point where you say, oh, Eagles should move off him.
He's 27 years old.
Yes. But
we're acting like A.J. Brown's 33.
It's not just that. If A.J. Brown was on, I don't know, if this team existed, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown on, I don't know, the Tennessee Titans, and you got to rebuild a bunch of stuff, okay, well, you need draft guys. What are you trading him for? What do you need? What does this team have to add?
All he literally said was that he wants to get rid of the chatty nature of A.J. Brown. Well, if anything, the chatty nature of A.J. Brown may have changed the direction of the offense a little bit.
Maybe I want to get rid of the chatty nature of talk show hosts and want A.J. Brown to get traded from the Philadelphia Eagles.
Now, here's the other one. So I understand why you would feel maybe the need to say this. So Mike Florio and Chris Sims, and I'm sure there are people thinking that I was going to go with the Chris Sims here. No, Mike Florio was the one that said something crazy. They were interviewing Andy Reid from the Combine. So we could probably cut it midway through, Gunner, so just be ready, because the clip is majority Andy Reid. But take a listen to the questioning and the added sort of nuggets from the mind of Mike Florio when he was talking to Andy Reid this weekend.
When you go back and look at the Super Bowl, before it's 24-0, it's 0-0. And there are moments where I feel like it could have gone either way. Are there any moments that stick out to you where, man, if this had just happened here, it might have been different?
Yeah, sure. On the first couple of drives, I'd tell you, we had opportunities, and I probably could have put the guys in a little better position there with some things. And against that crew, once you get into a just true pass situation, you get past into that third, fourth series there where you got to throw the ball a little bit more. They're too talented up front.
All right, you can cut it there. Andy was not making
have a ham sandwich.
Andy was not making excuses. Andy Reid immediately took the blame. Like, I could have put my guys in a better position, which is something we were accustomed to hearing a lot when he was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Job.
The worst part is before he even answers the question, it's Mike Florio saying before it was 24-0, it was 0-0, and I think the game could have gone in different ways. When? What different ways? It was a freaking beatdown.
A couple of plays different. We've heard that before about the Philadelphia Eagles.
Here are the Chiefs' drives to start the game. Punt, 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 punt. Interception, punt, punt, turnover on downs.
He said 24 points. Guess how many yards they had in the first half? 23 total yards. What do you mean 24-0? Like, come on now.
I don't, like... And a couple of different plays, Hurts throws the bad interception in the second quarter. What if he makes a better throw? Then it's more points for the Eagles.
What if they don't call that BS offensive pass interference on A.J.
Brown, which would have led to at least 3 points on that drive. If anything, it was probably 7. That was such a... And I get it. Andy's there in front of him, so he's trying to probably be respectful. But don't... Like, if I'm Andy Reid, I'm going, what the hell is this guy saying? This? Andy Reid's probably miserable. Travis Kelce has basically said that he's not retiring because of the bad taste in his mouth from that last game. And you're Mike Florio trying to do the whole, the game was closer than what a lot of people would think. No, it wasn't.
You were there in that situation last week at the Sixers Gala. You didn't sugarcoat your questions to Nick Nurse. You let him know it's been a frustrating season. And
it was for the kids that day, though, Gunner.
For the kids.
For the kids.
Every game is close to 0-0, and guess what? This is March 3rd football talk right now. This is where we get the hot takes.
Well, that's not even a hot take. I think he's just trying to be nice to Andy.
I got you.
But it was ridiculous. A couple plays go, what? Jalen Hurts' leg falls off? Is that one of the plays? That's a crazy thing to say. You don't have to sugarcoat everything to your guest. And that guy's been in the media 50 years more than me. All right. Coming up next, I read an article this morning on ESPN about how the Sixers can fix their current situation. It's an ESPN Plus account, so I got you guys covered.
Oh, look at you, right? Moneybags.
Yeah, Mr. Moneybags, Disney Plus for Cooper combo package over here. I'll tell you how they think they can fix it. It's not that easy, folks. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Vitalico, and Silvana Keller.
Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. As we talk about both the Eagles and Sixers, we are going to get into a little Phillies conversation later on because I have Mr. Locked On Phillies podcast next.
Who's that?
That's you, Connor Thomas. And also just the dominance from the pitching staff so far this spring.
I had a take this weekend that you're going to love.
Okay. All right. We'll get into that later on the show. Now, ESPN Plus. So don't worry. I got you guys covered. Shout out to Coop and his Disney. He was watching Toy Story yesterday. The reason why we watch Toy Story is for the combo package that includes ESPN Plus. So Kevin Pelton, who does a good job for ESPN, wrote an article on how to fix the Suns, Sixers, Heat, Pelicans, and Timberwolves. Suns obviously have Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. They're under 500. We know the Sixers situation with Joel Embiid and Paul George. Embiid done for the season due to the injury. Shut down due to the injury. The Miami Heat are in that weird spot. They just moved on from Jimmy Butler. I don't know what the Heat do moving forward. Honestly, that's a confusing situation. And I think that starts upstairs because I think they can believe in Heat culture, which clearly works. But at some point, do you need more talent? And can you ignore the fact that you need that much longer? The New Orleans Pelicans, they got Zion. That's another crazy situation. And the T-Wolves were the fun-rising team last year. And then they make the stupid trade, which I still can't believe they did. Like, I thought that trade was dumb. And Julius Randle's been hurting them at times this year. But whatever. We're focused on the Sixers here. So here's what Kevin Pelton wrote about the Sixers. The first thing is what went wrong. He said it would be easier to list what has gone right in Philadelphia this season, highlighted by rookie Jared McCain's strong start prior to the meniscus repair, because what else is new with this team? The meniscus, man.
First-round picks, man.
And Gershon Yabusele's play on the minimum contract. The Sixers' veteran star duo of Joel Embiid and Paul George has rarely been healthy and has been ineffective even when they've been on the court together prior to Friday's announcement that Embiid will miss the remainder of the season. Worse yet, Philadelphia will keep its first-round pick only if it lands in the top 6. Otherwise, it's headed to the Oklahoma City Thunder, which would be bad. Saying.
That would be bad.
Here are the potential solutions according to Kevin Pelton. Number 1, with Embiid out, consider shutting down Paul George. This is what Kevin Pelton of ESPN Insider, ESPN basketball analyst, is saying, that you would shut down Paul George. And that's option number 1. Now, again, easier said than done. You're trying to tell competitors on the team that you're done. You have to look Tyrese Maxey in the eyes, who's going out there and busting his ass every single night.
And he's clearly not right.
He's not. Well. No, exactly. He's got the fingers that he's dealing with right now. But you would have to look him in the eye and say, "Hey, PG's we're gonna end the season for PG as well because he's getting the daily injections just like Joel Embiid was. So your time to shine, Reese. But ultimately, it's going to be tough for you to win on your own. That's going to be hard to sell to one of your max contract players, by the way. Like Tyrese Maxey's now a max contract guy. Option number 2, do everything possible to keep the pick. So that kind of goes off of option 1, which is keeping some players off the court. He writes, as I wrote Friday when Embiid was ruled out, Philly could plausibly pass the Pelicans and Toronto Raptors in the lottery standings, which would increase their odds of keeping the pick from 48% as the number 6 seed entering the lottery all the way up to 81% if they were 4th going in. Now, lastly, this is actual basketball, not just shutting down. This is his third option. And again, easier said than done, Mr. Pelton. Rebuild the front court depth. The ability for Sixers president of basketball operations, Daryl Morey, to conjure up rotation caliber players has always been key to his dog pursuit of stars. Although depth wasn't the primary reason for Philadelphia's failure, it disappointed nonetheless. Backup centers Andre Drummond and Adem Bona haven't provided the cover the Sixers expected behind Embiid, and Caleb Martin wasn't the strong role player Philadelphia expected. As a result, the Sixers have given more than 3,500 minutes to players by metric rates below replacement level this season. the league's 8th highest total. Philly already began retooling its depth at the deadline by swapping Martin for Quentin Grimes, who we saw the great night the other night, who has been an upgrade on injured guard Eric Gordon. Still, the Sixers will be searching for front court solutions. It's tough to outline options because their budget remains uncertain, in addition to whether the Sixers keep their pick. That will also be influenced by decisions on player options for Andre Drummond and Kelly Oubre. Drummond $5 million, Kelly Oubre $8.4 million. Here's the deal. Rebuild the front court depth. Has been the same talking point for the Phillies trying to find an outfielder through the draft, a goalie for the Flyers. It just doesn't happen. It can happen. It will happen eventually. But the Sixers have tried a bunch of different options to back up Joel Embiid. The reason why you see the drop-off is because of how exceptional Embiid is. And unless you're drafting another exceptional center, there's going to be a fall-off from Embiid to whoever else you play. Now, it could be a style of center. Like Andre Drummond and Joel Embiid are nowhere near identical styles of play. Drummond doesn't have an offensive game. So if you're going to go off from Embiid and go to a backup center, that backup center should be able to replicate somewhat of Joel Embiid's game. That way you have a consistent style of play.
Yeah.
You go from Embiid, who dominates the ball at the mid-range top of the key, to now Andre Drummond setting screens. There's a major difference there.
Right, but like here's the thing with all of this, and I get these are scenarios and anything could break anyway, but if the Sixers don't end up with their first-round pick, like let's say the lottery balls do not fall their way and they get 7 and then it goes to Oklahoma City, and Joel Embiid wants to come back and play, and Paul George doesn't get traded because that's a tough contract to move, even though I think they should look at their options this offseason. If you come back with Maxey, Embiid, and George, you don't get a first-round selection, like how do you do any of that? You can't. You're hamstrung in the same situation you're in right now.
You have to hope that people want to sign mid-level exemption contracts and veteran contracts, and a lot of guys did that this year thinking that something would happen. And unfortunately, Embiid got hurt. Does another veteran look at the situation in Philadelphia and go, that's the place I want to be? I don't know. That's for them to decide, not me.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, but I don't like relying on choices of other people. I want them to be able to be proactive in acquiring, and the only way you do that is if you get your draft pick, right?
Yeah. It's just a shame that of the 3 options, or of the 3 ways to fix the Sixers, the first 2 are about trying to get a good draft pick. And then option 3 is center depth.
Yeah, it's a tough spot right now.
It is a very tough spot that they're in. So we want to hear from you when it comes to the Joel Embiid discussion. If you could snap your fingers right now and get him out of here, what would you do? Also, the Eagles, are they about to begin a run on the NFC East for years to come? I totally believe it. We'd love to hear from you, 610-632-0975. We'll check our text line on those topics coming up next. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Embiid is out. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Over the weekend, the Sixers announced that Joel Embiid would not be medically cleared to play the rest of the season. Embiid and the team are still currently in search of the best treatment for his knee to return to the court as soon as possible. ESPN Shams Charania spoke on SportsCenter over the weekend and broke down exactly what's going on with Embiid and the team.
This has been a situation the 76ers have been dealing with all season, and they've managed the swelling in multiple different ways, including injections monthly, just to get him on the court. But here they are in lockstep. This is all about getting Joel Embiid back on the court in the best sustainable way, and they are in lockstep about that.
The rest of the team continues on with their regular season tonight, though. They welcome in the Portland Trail Blazers. Tip-off is at 7. You can listen to that game live right here on The Fanatic. The Eagles, they're in the midst of their offseason, and one of the deadlines is approaching. The franchise tag period closes tomorrow at 4 p.m., so the team's going to have to decide if they will use it on any of their pending free agents, Zach Bond, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, etc. Right now, it does seem unlikely, though. We'll keep you updated if they do. And the Flyers, they remain idle today, but hit the ice again tomorrow when the Calgary Flames come to town at the Wells Fargo Center. This update was brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. That feeling of owning your first Mercedes-Benz is hard to believe, but it's real. From the leather stitching to the iconic design, every element of our Mercedes-Benz lives up to its reputation. See yourself at your local dealer. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Calico.
Why I put him in number 5? Well, that way you could skip him when you want to skip him.
text line here momentarily. But I saw an awesome tweet. I know Nick Picone tweeted this out yesterday. I also saw Joe Pez on Twitter put this out as well. There's a Commanders fan account called DC Rising. All right? These are your kind of people, Connor.
What do you mean my kind of people?
Because you're so scared that Deebo Samuel's going to the Commanders.
I'm scared of Deebo Samuel. Stop framing it that way.
So this guy, DC Rising, puts out a tweet on March 1st, so 2 days ago. To everyone hating on the Commanders calling Deebo Samuel washed, you all said the same thing last year about Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz, and Austin Eckler. All had productive years and were pivotal pieces to the Commanders' run to the NFC Championship. All right, I hear you.
I don't think that's crazy.
You're a fan. You're trying to back up the trade that I think is going to be laughable at some point. But the funny thing is, on December 12th of 2024.
Oh, no.
So less than 3 months ago.
He got receipted?
He puts out a tweet, Deebo Samuel next year. And it's a video of a guy making burgers at a local or at a fast food joint.
Oh, man. Twitter will always get you.
And, like, I get it if you don't like a player and then they come here. Like, how many times have we talked about certain players that we hate, but we would love for them to be on our team?
Yeah.
Sidney Crosby, right? Like, I would take Sidney Crosby in a heartbeat, despite the hatred that we felt for him for the longest time. His name's escaping me. The guy on the Celtics that had the green. He's with the
Marcus Smart.
Yeah, he's with the Grizzlies now.
Yeah.
Marcus Smart was a guy that I would have loved being on the Sixers, but of course he wore Celtics green, so I despised him, and he was an ass. But I wanted him to be on our team.
Yeah, absolutely. There's those guys in every sport.
But when you're talking about a guy being washed, and then 3 months later going, for all the people saying you think he's washed, like, yo, dude, at some point, you just got to keep the same energy. At some point.
You know what I think that is? I think that's people ripping off so many takes that they forget what they have out there.
I know, man.
It's just like...
You're right. And I think the kid's, he's 20 years old.
Yeah, so he says a bunch of stuff. He forgot. He got, and hey.
Should have a good memory at 20 years old. He shouldn't forget anything.
Welcome to the game, though.
But in his defense, he's a blue check mark, so he's trying to pay. He's trying to get money. And by the way, his bio does say dangerously optimistic. So good for you. But to say that a guy's washed and he's gonna be flipping burgers 3 months ago, now all of a sudden you're saying everybody's saying he's washed. What about what happened last year?
Yeah, but I've had those moments where I'm like, this guy stinks, and then he comes to Philadelphia, and I'm like, well, hey, maybe it works here. Like, listen, he's got this upside. Like, if Bryce Huff was on a different team right now, and I heard the conversation we had about him and, like, getting something out of him as a rotational piece, and I saw the year that he had, I'd be like, these guys are morons. But now, being in the situation may give you a different perspective, which I think we get with the Bryce Huff thing. But also, it's a lot easier to talk up guys that play in the city that you're rooting for teams on.
Yeah, I got you. I try. I don't, though.
And I'm not scared of Deebo. I'm not scared of Deebo.
If the Phillies... Now, I get it. I'm in the media, right? I'm not a fan account. I don't hide my disappointment with moves that the teams make.
Right.
Why can't we do that? Why does it always have to be everything's perfect? Or why does it always have to be everything's bad? Because
there's also so much gray
there's
area.
people that take the opposite
Yeah.
of the DC Rising fan account. There's the people that are always complaining about the teams. We're accustomed to that every single day with some of the people that we interact with on social media. There are people that just always think whatever move the teams make, they suck.
Yeah.
And I don't get that one either. All right, you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN, Burlington, HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, BZ Media Group Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. We're going to get into a little Phillies discussion in about 10 minutes because the pitching has been ridiculous. We'll get into that coming up in a little bit. But what do we have on the text line about our topics this morning, Mr. Gunn?
Yeah, we got a no-name texter checking in. I don't quite get the logic on this one, but he says, I am done. I've been done with Embiid ever since they gave him the fake MVP. There's definitely worse options than Embiid, though, and we have one, Paul George.
The fake MVP.
You were done with the guy that just won the MVP?
The fake? He's calling it a fake MVP. He's saying that the league was tired of giving Jokic MVPs, so he gave that one. Now, I will say this. There was a day I was in Tampa last year for the Eagles-Bucks game, so 2 seasons ago. And all I wanted to do was go for a round of golf. That's all I wanted to do. I had no kid down there with me. I had no wife. I had, other than the show, which is middays, I had time afterward. All I wanted to do was golf, and I just wanted to golf by myself. Made it like 5 or 6 holes. And this guy, the group in front of me slowing down.
Yeah.
So the guy behind me,
mind if I jump in?
Uh-huh. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Say no? Don't.
Right, you can't.
Don't join me. He offered me a beer. It was cool. So I took the beer.
Peace offering, worth it.
Ended up being a full-on Denver fan. So,
God.
Nuggets, Lanch, Rockies, just lives in Florida, which, whatever. So we started talking about the Jokic Embiid thing, right? All I wanted to do, he didn't know what I did for a living, right? So, you get the deal. We leave here, and we talk sports all the time because
that's what we do.
That's what we do. But
guys being dudes.
But every once in a while, you want to kind of get away.
Yes.
And I'm golfing. I'm not even a good golfer. I just like to get out, right? A couple hours by myself.
You're all right.
And this guy's, we're doing the Embiid Jokic thing. I think there is a point that the year Embiid won, it probably should have been Jokic. There may actually be a point to that. But the year before, Embiid should have won.
Right, like he was the leading scorer 3 years in a row.
Yeah, but
in
the second year when he won this back-to-back, when he won his second MVP, Embiid had a better season. It was that stupid Raptor stuff. That was the year where all those sabermetrics really jumped out, and Jokic was 10 times better than Embiid for whatever reason that season. It wasn't even – the defensive metrics was way more Embiid, but people ignore that. They only care about the offensive game. So that person's right that maybe they gave Embiid the MVP that year because Jokic shouldn't have got it the year before. But Embiid should have gotten it the year before.
Yeah, but regardless, okay, just say he was runner-up. You were done with the runner-up to the MVP?
Yeah, that's right, a three-time runner-up to the MVP.
Yeah, there are people for whatever, we have a lot of polarizing figures in this city's history when it comes to our sports teams.
Yes.
When the great players are often polarizing, even if they're undeniably talented, and Embiid is one of those insanely so. So that just sounds like a guy that hasn't liked Embiid, doesn't like Embiid, and is taking any opportunity to be like, I've been done for this long.
There are people that like T.J. McConnell more than Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
He may have a point, though, with the Paul George situation. That may be worse for the Sixers long-term than Embiid.
No, more movable of a contract, I think.
Potentially.
Potentially
he's
movable.
More healthy.
And that's why I'm going to talk myself into Kevin Durant this offseason, because all weekend on NBA talk was Durant's out. The whole weekend. I wish it happened during the season, but whatever. The whole weekend was about Durant's going to be leaving Phoenix. So that's your movable contract for a disgruntled star who's making a max contract, who plays for a West Coast team where Paul George would prefer to be. I don't think that's really that groundbreaking. He preferred being out west. He wanted to stay with the Clippers or Golden State, but the Sixers offered the extra year and the extra money, so that's why he's here. He took the bag. I don't blame him, but he'd rather be out west, so maybe that's your potential out. Other than that, I didn't want him here. I was terrified of bringing Paul George here.
Yeah, but he was kind of what you had to do to defend the organization a little bit. You didn't have a better max contract player available in free agency. Not a better player. He's not. Zach LaVine's solid. Paul George is solid when he's healthy.
Younger?
Zach LaVine's
a more prolific scorer at this point of their careers.
But the thing is, you're not winning with Zach LaVine. The same way you're not winning right now with Paul George.
You're winning with Paul George.
No, Zach LaVine put the team on his back by canceling his podcast to win.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would do that.
What has Paul George won in his career?
What has Zach LaVine won?
No, nothing. But at least he's younger, and I'm giving it a better shot. One of the biggest problems with the Sixers this year was they were an old team. That's look, Eric Gordon's done for the season because of his older body. Kyle Lowry, how much time did Kyle Lowry miss this year? Andre Drummond's missed a lot of time this year. I understand that they have been dealing with a lot of injuries, but other than Jared McCain, who's the young player that's been dealing with injuries? It's been all older players.
No,
Maxi's been playing through a lot of stuff, but the guys that have been missing extended periods of time have been the older players.
But dude,
young.
No, but exactly, and 29 isn't young enough. The LaVine move would be the Tobias Harris move. You'd bring in a guy that
I got a guy that can actually score.
I I got you. But the age-wise, you'd bring in a guy that's just a little bit above the age range you'd probably look for if you were doing like a full rebuild or whatever. If you did go that way and say Maxey's our guy, McCain's our guy. And then you've just got a dude who I don't think can win the championship. He can help you win. And then you're going to have to, once you get Maxey into his prime, figure out what you're doing outside of that. Like, I'd rather them put a buildable team around Tyrese Maxey than try and find these later stage veterans.
Well, yeah, now you got to start looking young, especially after this season. Give us one more text, Connor.
All right, let me get it up for you guys. It says, Sinclair's checking in. He says, Andrew,
right,
I told you a while ago, I would have traded him after losing to Boston. That was a franchise-altering loss, and the injuries, they're inevitable with him. Portland was the perfect trade partner because they had the third pick, and they didn't want to move on from Dame Dalla yet. We could have fast-tracked a rebuild. Love Joel, but the time to move on was 2 years ago.
Here's the thing.
Now you're stuck.
And I've been talking to St. Clair for a while. So he says the Celtics was a franchise-altering series. No, the franchise-altering moment was Embiid getting hurt last year. He was having the best year of his career. Like, Joel Embiid... It's because of the injuries, and people are tired of it and fed up with it. Joel Embiid was having a historic season last year. Historic. And we ignore it because he got hurt, because it's same old, same old. And I don't blame anyone for doing that. So I hear where St. Clair's coming from, but they were on pace to having a better season the next year after the Celtics loss.
Yeah.
But he got hurt.
The tough thing is, with Joel Embiid, every year's kind of a gamble, and you have to weigh the talent level versus the potential of injury. And at that point, I think for a good amount of people still, especially compared to now, we're willing to take that gamble of say, hey, if he's healthy, this will be a monster team. And it just didn't work out.
By the way, I mentioned Zach LaVine, or they could have done what I said from the beginning. Keep the best point guard that Joel Embiid ever played with. The beard's still doing it. Just saying.
Yeah, he is.
All right, coming up next. Talk a little Phillies. The pitching so far this spring has been ridiculous. So we'll get into that coming up next because maybe they could be like the Eagles where they don't score all that much and they just play great defense and shut down the opposing team. It's Kincade Salciunas, Connor, and for John, 97.5 The Fanatic.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
this Phillies thing real quick. I saw a tweet from Mostly Eagles on Twitter. They posted a graphic from CBS Sports.
I wonder if it's about the Eagles.
It includes mostly. The winningest teams in the last decade, regular season win percentage. Would you guys like to play a game to try to figure out who are the top 10 teams over the last decade in terms of winning percentage in the regular season?
Well, New England's got to be up there.
New England is 9th out of the 10.
Kansas City's got to be up there.
They are first.
Yeah. I mean, the Eagles are probably, 3?
No, the Eagles are 7th.
Really? I'm surprised they're so low. So Green Bay, they don't really have bad seasons.
Green Bay's 4th. Gunnar, you have any guesses? Winningest teams in the last decade in the NFL in terms of regular season winning percentage. We have the Chiefs at 1. We have the Eagles at 7. Chiefs at 1, Packers at 4, Eagles at 7, Patriots at 9.
Past decade, you said?
Past decade, last 10 years.
I mean, Dallas has to be up there.
Dallas is 10th on this list.
I'm trying to think of who
Minnesota?
else.
Minnesota is 6th, just ahead of the Eagles.
Surprising by them. Yeah.
New Orleans?
No.
No, I don't think there's an NFC South team in there.
Past decade, they had their run up until 2020.
Yeah, but they've had a lot of 3-win seasons.
Now you're missing a couple of really recent ones.
Buffalo. Oh, Baltimore's got to be on there.
Baltimore and Buffalo.
Yeah.
Buffalo is 3rd. Baltimore is 5th. The Packers are the team that's sandwiched in between them. You're missing a team that never goes under 500.
Pittsburgh, yeah.
They are 2nd.
Shout out to
on
AFC
that
North.
list. And then there's, I think, one team that you've missed, and it's the Seattle Seahawks. So that was more so in the beginning part of this 10-year discussion.
Interesting.
The amazing thing, so the 10 most winningest teams in terms of winning percentage over the last 10 years.
Only 3 have won a Super Bowl?
Only 3 have won a Super Bowl. Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Patriots. Isn't that amazing?
That'll just show you, man. You got to cash in on your opportunity.
Well, yeah, 7 of the last 10 Super Bowls have been won by those 3 teams. And like you said, you got to cash in.
And that's why the Eagles should go all in for Myles Garrett.
Exactly. All right, so the Phillies have just been on a tear in terms of their rotation or key guys. So I want to credit John Foley, who does a great job. He works with On Pattison. Combined spring stats for Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, Aaron Nola, Jesus Luzardo, Jose Alvarado, Jordan Romano, and Orion Kirkering. So your key rotation guys and key bullpen guys. And this was back on March 1st. I know Sanchez pitched yesterday as well. 11 innings pitched, 0 runs on just 3 hits, no walks, 16 strikeouts. Now, in the spring and early parts of the season, the rotation always has the upper edge.
Absolutely.
So not totally surprised by this, especially when they might not be facing other top guys in a lineup. Some days the top guys are in the lineup. Some days the teams don't travel. So if these games were at Baycare, maybe the opposing teams didn't even send their starting players. So there's context to all of it. But we're already excited for the rotation and the bullpen. So to see those kinds of numbers and to see Christopher Sanchez pumping 97, 98 on the gun, you should be really excited about what the rotation has in store for the Phillies as long as they stay healthy, which they did for the most part last year except for Ranger. And then obviously there was the big, what do they do with the 5th man of the rotation? They kept on trotting out Taijuan Walker, and they did that until it was too late. They didn't acquire any pitching. They only really got Austin Hayes at the deadline. But this rotation is going to be pretty damn dominant. So in the games where you do score only 2 or 3 runs, you should still be able to win those occasionally. If the bats come to life, this team's going to be dangerous. And that's why they're still going to be a 90-win team and in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're a really good baseball team. And I had 2 things over the weekend that I brought up on my Saturday show. I think you're going to love one of these.
Okay.
Barring injury, which there's going to be some level of injury with every pitching staff and every rotation. This is not the bullpen because the bullpen has some weird question marks. High upside, question marks that I can't make this statement about.
Yep.
I think there's a pretty solid chance we're looking at the best rotation in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies. Yes, that includes the 4 aces. Yes, that includes anything else you've ever seen before. Like, think about what these guys did last year. Now you've got Sanchez throwing harder. You added Luzardo where you had, like,
are you
Walker.
saying a individual season?
Individual season, yes.
Yeah, because like obviously the resumes of Holiday, Lee, Oswald, and Hamels are a little bit different than the resumes you have here. But I get what you're saying because I said it last year. Through June, they had better numbers than the 4 aces.
Yes, and I also told you as we walked out of the studio last break, there's something that I'm tentatively upset with the fan base about.
Okay.
Because people are so damn caught up with the offensive approach of this baseball team that they're going to miss it. You're going to take away from what could be the greatest single season pitching-wise by a rotation in Philadelphia Phillies history because you're too concerned about something that could happen in October. And I'm not saying the hitting approach doesn't matter, but there are some people that are so blinded by that they're not even discussing the pitching rotation.
I don't blame anyone.
What do you mean you don't blame anyone?
Yeah, like what if it does happen again? Then who gives a rat's ass about the best pitching season of all time?
Because that's in October, and if that happens in October, we will deal with it.
All right, you're talking to the masses here. That
I am.
Don't live it day by day like we do. I love a 1-0 pitcher's duel. I'm a loser. I've already said that earlier today.
You're really on that today.
I love baseball, every aspect of the game of baseball. I still play in a damn Sunday league for crying out loud. So I like that kind of stuff. But if you're talking to the everyday person, they want to see a lot of home runs. They want to see that the offense plays well. And the Phillies have reached the Sixers territory of, okay, that's great and all, but when is it going to lead to
I
a
get
trophy?
That. I'm not telling you this pitching staff is winning them the World Series. Like, you can't say that at this point. But what I am saying is we had a conversation with the Eagles this past year leading up to the Super Bowl where a lot of people were worried about Jalen Hurts in the offense. And what happens if he has a game where he has to throw the ball? Or what happens if he can't come up big in the big moments? And my argument to that throughout the postseason was what? That the defense is so good it might not matter. Now, it's not a guarantee, but you have an elite-level 5-man rotation, and there are people that are acting like this team isn't good enough because they don't like the way that they swing the bat.
Well, that's a legitimate concern.
Okay, well, you've got to enjoy the parts of the team that are good. You can't let one part of the team poison the well of what could be an exceptional thing to witness this year. I'm trying to save you so you enjoy baseball more this year.
You're not.
Listen to me.
You're trying to talk to the everyday man.
I'm trying to help the everyday man.
That doesn't necessarily care about that.
I'm trying to help
and
you.
I'll explain more coming up next, and I'll use a game very recent in terms of Phillies baseball that might not matter to all of that. Also, we hate the Packers right now because they're trying to ban the tush push. But they're also banning something with their own fan base that I respect. We'll get into this coming up next as well. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Embiid is out. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Over the weekend, the Sixers announced that Joel Embiid would miss the rest of the regular season because he was not medically cleared to play. Embiid and the team are still in search of the best treatment for his knee to return to the court as soon as possible. ESPN Shams Charania spoke on SportsCenter over the weekend and broke down exactly what's going on with Embiid and the team.
This has been a situation the 76ers have been dealing with all season, and they've managed the swelling in multiple different ways, including injections monthly, just to get him on the court. But here they are in lockstep. This is all about getting Joel Embiid back on the court in the best sustainable way, and they are in lockstep about that.
No Embiid, but the rest of the team continues on with their season tonight when they welcome the Portland Trail Blazers to town. Tip-off is at 7. You can catch that game live right here on The Fanatic. The Eagles, though, they're in the midst of their offseason and deadlines are approaching. The franchise tag period closes at 4 p.m. tomorrow, so the team's going to have to decide if they're going to use it on any of their pending free agents, Milton Williams, Zach Bond, Josh Sweat, etc. Right now, it seems unlikely, but we'll keep you updated if they do. And the Flyers, they remain idle today, but they hit the ice again tomorrow when the Calgary Flames come to town. This update was brought to you by True Green. True Green, get a golf course quality lawn for less than you think. Sign up for TrueGreen.com now. That's TrueGreen.com. True Green, the official lawn care treatment provider of the PGA Tour. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Andrew DeCecco.
Howie Roseman pinpointed Zach Bond as a player that they wanted to target.
9:25 on this Championship Monday morning, presented to us by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com. So we're going to get into something that the Packers are doing that I completely respect. But real quick, just a note on the Phillies thing. And again, you're trying to work with the everyday man when you say what you say about try to ignore the issues with the bats at times because you might miss the dominance of the rotation.
Right, exactly.
I will just go to game 1 of the playoffs
I knew that's where you were going.
Where Zach Wheeler, who is one of the best pitchers in Phillies franchise history, believe it or not, he's one of the best pitchers in Phillies franchise history. He has been worth every penny, if not more, which is why they gave him the monster extension that the likes of Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer got, and yet he's continued to pitch well with it. Zach Wheeler went 7 innings, 1 hit ball, 111 pitches, 9 strikeouts. The Phillies were up 1-0 because of a Kyle Schwarber leadoff home run in the bottom of the first inning. You and I were together at the beer garden.
Yeah.
In Center City. Awesome place.
Yes. Uptown.
Uptown Beer Garden. Yeah, awesome place. He goes 7 shutout innings. Phillies are up 1-0. And then the bullpen implodes in the 8th. And the Phillies lose 6-2. And so you could have a starting pitcher go 7 shutout innings, and you could still lose the ball game.
Right.
Because your bats have found a way to be inconsistent come playoff time based off of the scouting reports that the other top-paid professionals also have, and the other top pitchers also have, and the other top-paid bullpen arms also have.
Right. That's not my argument, though. This is not about playoffs. This is not about the ceiling of the baseball team. This is not even about winning games. That's not what I'm talking about. This is about just enjoying. Like, if you're a baseball fan, you're doing yourself a disservice if you allow part of something that's going to happen 6 months down the line, or could happen 6 months down the line. There are some people that will not enjoy this Philadelphia Phillies season.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be looking over their shoulder at the prospect of Trey Turner striking out on a low-away slider in October.
But do you blame them?
You got to understand it, though.
Yes, I do.
Last year we had the franchise record for All-Stars, 8. And then they did the same thing. I don't care if they do something special in the regular season
Joel
anymore.
Embiid dropped 70 points in a basketball last year, and people said, okay, wake me up when it's playoff time.
I got you.
The Phillies have reached that point for a lot of people. Like you, I can sit down and watch a ball game and enjoy it and not worry about playoffs and not worry about anything else. But the masses, the everyday person, does.
Right. The Phillies may have fatal flaws. They may have things that keep them from contending, and it may be the stuff that we've seen in the past years because they ran it back and they brought back a lot of the same guys.
And so that's what they'll focus on.
But that is, listen, you can enjoy stuff. That's 6 months away. You are insane if you can't. You're not a fan of the sport, and you're not a fan of the team if you can't enjoy the good stuff because you're so afraid of something that far away.
That's a little far. You're not a fan of the team, but I get it. I'm going to enjoy the regular season. But
it's just Jimmy Rollins was not wrong, right?
Dude, no, because people show up every single day. That place is packed. So you can't do the whole, people aren't front running this team. People are there every single night. I mean, last year they sold out almost every single home game, despite people already seeing the collapse starting to happen.
Well, no, because they're winning, but people we don't remember enough. The memory's too short. We don't remember how bad it's been. We don't remember how bad rotations can get. I think about the Detroit Tigers team that had Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander and David Price and all of these guys, Drew Smiley,
Rick Porcello.
And at the time, they're just kind of guys. And you enjoyed it, but nobody talked about that rotation that way. And now you look at where the Tigers have been, and it's just we would kill to have something like that again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, they may not win the World Series. And that's something that we're going to have to live with. But you can't just throw out everything that you could enjoy because of some specter of something that could happen.
If it ends up happening the same way that it does, people are going to say, see, Connor, this is why we weren't as excited as you.
We're both going to be the same level of upset. The difference is, for the 6 months leading up to it, I'm going to have fun. You want to have fun with me? We can have fun.
Yeah, you should enjoy it. You don't have to remember the season as being, okay, they had a great season. Who cares what they did in the postseason? Enjoy it on the way. But if it goes, that's not going to be the story of the season.
Right, I'm not saying that. There will be people that sacrifice fun for something that could happen, and that's stupid to me.
Yeah, all right. I hear you, and I hear where you're coming from. I'm just trying to tell you that there are people that do not see the same way that you.
I understand. That's why we're having a discussion.
The Packers are enemies of Philadelphia right now because of them trying to ban the tush push, those little coward weasels. But they are doing something that I do respect. Now, let's get some of the certain things out of the way. It's your money. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. I get it. But the Green Bay Packers will not allow the renewal of season ticket holders who just buy the tickets to sell them all. And there are people that make the investment to try to make more money. And it's not like baseball where it's 81 games, 81 home games, right? 41 home games in basketball and hockey. It's 8 now, sometimes 9 home games. They are not allowing the season ticket holders that buy the tickets and then just sell them all season long to renew them.
That's
and
totally
I
fair.
think that is a great rule that every team should abide by, because I think it's ridiculous that people do that, because you know the waiting lists that are there. Like, it's one thing if it's the Sixers, you tried making the investment during the process. I know a lot of people that bought the tickets the year before they started getting good because they knew at some point they'd be able to make a decent chunk of change for it. But I'm talking about football, especially teams like the Green Bay Packers, teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, who have waiting lists because people want to have season tickets. I love the fact that they are going to do this. Now, I understand the team still gets their money. So it doesn't totally, like, it's not like they lose out on money.
No, but here's what it is, right? You see it all the time on products, not for individual resale, right? It's a business thing. You can't buy, and people do this because there's no way to police it with, like, but I'm just thinking like a Coca-Cola. You can't buy one or buy like a 12-pack and then sell them all for like $1 more than what the individual value is.
Oh, man, people do that on the boulevard all the time.
I know.
You trying to hurt the hardworking man on the boulevard?
No, I'm not saying. Listen,
I used to love those Gatorades. Hot summer day.
Go make your money. That's the same thing that we said to preface this conversation. My point is, when it's something that's so concentrated as a single organization selling tickets to their game, they're within their right as a business to be like, yo, you can't bump up the price of this and hurt what we're trying to do here. This is exactly how it should be handled, and that's not even mentioning the part of it that's fandom.
Yeah, well, that's the big thing. Like, you don't want the ticket to be on the market because that means somebody from an opposing team can scoop it up. Now, look, if you have good home field advantage, you're not really letting a team overtake. Like, remember the Commanders fans that thought they were overtaking the Link? Like, that was laughable. There was like 2% of Commanders fans inside the building for the NFC Championship.
Got 100% of the Hard Rock.
But yeah, exactly. But I love that the Packers are doing this, and I think this is something that a lot of teams should start to implement, because you start thinking about the guys that actually want to have season tickets, that actually want to pay their hard-earned money.
Can you only do this in the NFL? Like, can you?
I believe so. Yeah, that's why I said it's different for football, because there's only 8 or 9 games. Yeah, whereas baseball is different. Like, you shouldn't expect people to go to every game or even 25%.
Yeah, because you always make a profit on NFL tickets when you flip them on the secondary market. Right now, we see a team in our city, unfortunately, they're going for $1 on the secondary market.
Right.
So there's a plus and minus to that. There's no plus or there's no minus to selling NFL tickets. You're only making a profit.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a weird spot to put other fans of the team that you root for, or to try and take advantage of people who want to go to the game. It's not good for business to have like crazy upsell like that. And the Packers have control of the way they handle their business, so I got no issue with that.
Yeah,
I like it.
I got no problem at all. All right, give us a text on the text line. We'll check some more text messages coming up in a little bit. We also have our key three best minutes from today's show around 9:48. But what are the people saying on the text line, guys?
Yeah, we got Joe in Jersey checking in saying Connor sounds like Andrew from a few seasons ago talking about the Sixers begging people to enjoy the regular season, but it doesn't matter. I can totally enjoy a regular season game, but it's not going to change anything about me being optimistic in October.
A few seasons ago, I was saying it last year. Enjoy Joel Embiid dropping 70 because you don't get to see that much, not in Philadelphia, anywhere, but okay. Yeah. But yeah, I hear you. I am with you.
What was the name of that texter?
Joe.
Like, Joe, where you're at mentally, like, that's the conversation that isn't pointed at you. Like, there are people that won't be able to enjoy individual games because of what they're worried about in the future. All I'm trying to say is there's going to be a lot of great moments with this baseball team. They're going to win a lot of regular season games, and that doesn't make up for the postseason. But there will be people that throw that away because they're too worried about, like, what could happen. And that's sad to me because you only get so many sports games. You only get so many summers of baseball. I want you to love it. That's where I'm at, man. I just want people to be happy.
But they may not be happy the way you want to be happy.
They may not be happy in 6 months. And guess what? Then we can be sad together because I'll be sad too. But let's not get sad early.
Come up next. We check more of your text messages. Key 3 comes your way at 9:48. It is Kincade and Salciunas. Connor and for John today. 97.5 The Fanatic.
97.5 The Fanatic's Knockout Tournament is back Wednesday, March 26th.
Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Connor in for Johnny today. Will be for the next couple of days. John out on vacation for the entire week. But Connor's filling in today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And then you're going away. You're going down to Florida, correct?
Got to play some golf heading into Sarasota. Going to play 4 rounds in 4 days. I'm going to catch a spring training game.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll be able to watch it and not worry about what's going to happen in October because it's March. It'll be a fun trip. I can't wait.
I'm sure you're going to have a blast. Andrew the Checker will fill in then on Thursday, and then Amy Fadul will be in for the entire show on Friday. I guess Amy's coming in tomorrow. I might see Amy Fadul twice.
She is coming in tomorrow. I was talking to her this weekend.
How about that?
Trying to get her on my Saturday show, and she was at Hershey Park.
Oh, so she turned you down.
Yeah, but she's like, I'll see Andrew. So I was like, okay.
Damn right.
Fair enough.
All right. What do we have on the text line? Don't forget Mike Missanelli show coming your way at 10 o'clock with Bill Colarulo and Ray Dunn. By the way, Bill's rocking an awesome Phillies sweatshirt. So if you watch the show on YouTube, be prepared for art. It's a beautiful. It's like the old maroon. I love it, man.
It is a nice sweatshirt.
It's a great sweatshirt. Not me today. I'm literally dressed like a schlub today.
Me as well. I got my nice pink hoodie on here. You don't like the pink
hoodie?
hoodie?
Yeah, but I'm also wearing like the joggers that like aren't joggers.
What are joggers that aren't joggers?
He's wearing the baggiest pair of sweatpants.
Yeah, dude, they're baggy, man. It's not like the joggers that are like tight around the ankle.
Okay, so how are they joggers?
They're like joggers, but they're sweatpants. Dude, I look
they're like jeans, but they're sweatpants.
I should not be in this attire at work today, but it's a Monday and we work mornings. So
if you've ever seen Andrew, he looks the way he always looks.
Yeah, Bill came in dressed nice today. He's got the jeans on.
Yeah, that's right, man.
But we got Johnny checking in. He says, no. I'm not thinking of moving Embiid. Not this year at all. We'll see what happens next year, but that's where I'm currently at. I can't move on from him yet.
Well, now here's the funny thing, and I do believe that it has reached a point of there's no more let's wait and see next year. Like it's either you do it or you don't. Because the longer you wait, like you're not going to get a superstar in return. So when I hear that text, it's all right, you don't want to do it this year, then you know what? You're never doing it. Like me. I'm going down with the ship. I've been saying it for 2 years now. I'm going down with the ship. But you can't say, no, well, I'm not ready yet. But maybe next year or 2 years from now. 2 years from now, he's going to be 32. No, sorry, he turns 31 in 13 days. Happy almost birthday, Joe. So next year, he's going to be 32. With still a lot of money left on the table, a lot of years left on the table, and a lot of injuries on the table.
Right, but here's the thing. Like, here's the process that would need to happen for Joel Embiid to be traded. First of all, he's going to have to go through this recovery, whatever that means. Mm-hmm. That's going to take a long time. Now, he may be ready for next season, maybe not. We don't know at this point. But he's going to have to get on the floor. And he's going to have to play a little bit, at least, to show, hey, this is the type of player I am, before teams are going to be willing to acquire him, or really probably before the Sixers should try and trade him, because they're going to want to get as much value. If they do use this strategy of trading Joel Embiid, they're going to want as much value as they could possibly get. So you're not only waiting for him to recover, but you're waiting for him to play next season, because he's not playing this season anymore. He's done for the year. Mm-hmm. And then how long do you have to have him play for before teams are interested to the level they should be of giving you some return that's even justifiable for a player of that caliber? It could very well be all of next year before a team's willing to trade for Joel Embiid. And that's assuming that when he comes back and plays, there isn't another injury that happens at some point.
That's the other thing. We don't know what is going to happen.
Right.
Like, is Embiid just missing the rest of the season? Put your feet up, Joe. Rest is the best medicine, or is there a procedure? Like, if this hip realignment thing, I'm just basing it off of the reports. I don't know how quick of a recovery that is, especially when you're 7'2". Like, I don't know how quick that recovery is, so I don't know how long it even takes until he's back on the court. So if my man on the text line saying, no, don't trade him this year, which, again, I don't think anyone's going after him, to your point, Connor, but maybe next year, well, what if he doesn't play until next year? And I mean the 26-27 season.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That could be when he plays next.
There's so much up in the air of just the time frame, which is what makes this really tricky as well, because part of what you do in situations like this, where you may want to move on from max contract players, depending on how this shakes out, you have to have, and this is where they missed, right? This was the Sixers' biggest miss in the past couple of years, was they misevaluated this past year's free agency. They thought things were going to break differently. They planned for this past summer. Yeah. There weren't the right players available.
You got rid of Harden to have the max spot for this summer, or last summer rather, and there's one guy.
It was a misread on the market. Remember, Siakam ends up getting traded last year,
right?
So they weren't going to allow him to go back into free agency. So the Pacers upped his contract. OG
Anunoby
was the other one. Mikal Bridges, the Knicks did it a little bit earlier, trading all those first-round picks for him.
Right.
There were teams that read the market and said, all right, before we allow them to get to free agency, we're going to make the trade now, and we're going to sign the extension with them, because why would we trade everything in the world for a rental?
Yeah, and with Joe, you could say, well, I think this guy, like KD, is going to come available this offseason. Well, we don't know if a team's willing to trade for Joe. We don't know if a player in the early season next year is going to be tradable for him. We don't know if the trade deadline, you can't plan because we don't know the recovery yet, which is a really tough thing.
I'm reading an article on The Athletic. I just searched Joel Embiid on Google because I just want, what are people outside of Philadelphia saying? And there's a guy by the name of Tony Jones. Sounds like a fake name, Tony Jones.
Yeah, that's an alias.
Tony Jones writes for The Athletic, and he's basically saying the Sixers should shut it down. Again, another national media member is saying that the Sixers should shut it down. All right? And they're saying that maybe you could have a resurgence like the Grizzlies had this year. Because last year, Ja was out because of the injury and
other things.
They lost a lot of games last year. They were one of the worst basketball teams in the NBA. They had a couple of picks to work with, including they got Zach Edey from college, Purdue, right?
Yes,
Purdue. And they acquired some other talent because they had the money to do so, and now they're one of the best teams in the Western Conference. And so, if Embiid now, this article, as I quickly read through it, looks like they're talking about just the rest of the season. That's why I bring up I don't know what next year is. We don't know is there a procedure or is it just rest? This could be a 2-year thing for all we know. The rest of this season where you hopefully have your top 6 pick and maybe even next year, depending on how this plays out and depending on who you acquire. Does Paul George play here next year? Obviously, if you get Kevin Durant, you're going to win basketball games next season, but I don't know when Embiid's coming back.
Yeah, as the organization, all you can handle right now is play out the season with pride and continue to fight. They did that against the Warriors Saturday night. And, that was great effort from a guy like Quentin Grimes and the rest of the guys. That's a nice win for the team, for the players in that locker room, for Nick Nurse, who you talked to last week. And as the organization, you're going to keep fighting. As a fan base, anyone who's sitting there saying the most advantageous thing to you is to get a draft pick so that you can bring in more talent to this organization, I can't blame them that the draft pick is their focus. So it's a balance. You got to understand why the organization is still focused on trying to win or trying to at least finish this season out by fighting until the end. And as a fan, it'd be crazy to not think that getting more good players or the opportunity to draft more good players would be bad for the organization.
Sounds like the process.
It's a shorter one, though.
I know. All right, it is time now for the Kincade and Salciunas, Connor and for Kincade part of it. Key 3 best minutes from today's show.
Now, the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3, today's best.
They were looking for alternative options. There was only one. It was to end the season. Now, look, alternative options could mean, does he get a procedure or is it just rest? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I have not examined Joel Embiid's knee. So I don't know exactly what this situation's going to be, but you know that he's going to miss an extended period of time. You know he's done for the rest of the season. Based off of whatever this procedure could be, he could miss a lot of time next year. I mean, we're in March already, all right? So the season's not far, and it's not like he's a 6'2" guard. Not that I want to say a serious procedure is easier for some than others, but it is. Like a 6'2" guard versus a 7-foot center who usually deals with being a little bit of out of shape when he misses time. We see him get back into shape when he plays, but when he misses time, you know that Joel Embiid is not coming back and he's cut and he's in the best conditioning. So it's going to take some time for Joel Embiid to get back to any bit of that MVP form that we once saw, and we might never see it again. You say to me this morning that you don't like that the Commanders got Debo.
Yeah, I don't like it. This Washington Commanders team has a big offseason undertaking of trying to rebuild a team that made it to the NFC Championship game. And they had a lot of one-year contract guys. And there's a world where they don't bring in talent this offseason. There's a world where they don't build things the right way. I'm not saying they got Debo. Oof, we're in trouble. But what I am saying is I went into this offseason thinking, wow, how great would it be if Washington can't remotely put together a roster that would compete with the Eagles, because that is a possibility. That organization has had their struggles in the past. Debo is a talented player. He's had success against the Eagles.
I'm scrolling on Twitter. I see the report. I go, all right, on to the next. What else do we see? What bot am I going to find on social media now? Deebo Samuel does absolutely nothing for me. If anything, it makes me feel even better. That's why I literally wrote down the Eagle. This is before you even said that you were worried about Deebo going to the Commanders. To me, the Eagles are now going to begin a run of winning the NFC East because the Cowboys aren't close. The Giants aren't close. And I can't see the Commanders recreate what they did last offseason to put together a good team. I don't expect that happening again this offseason for the Commanders.
I don't think this is the end of him being a part of this team because the way that they announced that, the work that he did this season, right? Like, he was trying to play through it. And you got to give him some credit for that. He was giving an effort to try and be out on the floor. He couldn't move, man. He couldn't get out there and play. But that to me, and the announcement of, okay, we're trying to figure out how to get this done. We're going through all of these issues to figure out what the best way to proceed medically is to get him back healthy again, makes me believe he's not done playing basketball. Like, I don't think Joel Embiid now in like 2 weeks is going to say, whenever the season comes to an end, hey, I'm done, I'm hanging it up, career's over. Because I feel like going through everything he did this season, there would have been a different conversation about that. This feels like I'm trying to get back to being able to play. And then this offseason, you look at that and you say, okay, well, he's not going to be able to be traded because no one's going to trade for him until he recovers from whatever the procedure ends up being or whatever the rehab ends up being. Then you're going to be in next season with him either ready to go or him still rehabbing, and you're not going to trade him early on in next season because you're going to want to see what you have because Paul George is still under contract.
Yeah, you're not trading. I mean, if he's here to start the season, I imagine he finishes the 2025-26 season. All right, that is the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show. Question for you, Mr. Locked On Phillies podcast.
Hopefully a solid answer.
Does a team fall for it?
Does a team fall for what?
The increase in velocity for Taijuan Walker.
No. But a team does it.
So a team trades for him?
Yes, but a bad team that needs to have depth that doesn't have it.
Okay.
That's the thing. No one's going to be like, well, we're getting this amazing opportunity with acquiring Taijuan Walker. But I do think there's a team out there that says, hey, we have worse options. He looks solid. We could go acquire him. Maybe a team like the Marlins that has to hit the cap floor. I do think he's moved before opening day.
Okay. And look, that would be literally the best case scenario for the Phillies because his contract would be moved, which is a big part of it.
They might have to eat some of it, but...
Well, no, or they get a player to be named later. Like, the trade for Taijuan Walker is not getting you assets.
No. Not at all.
Hopefully get rid of a lot of the money. And like a team like the Marlins, we went through that last week, that they need to still make... They still need to buy like $30-some million worth of players to try to because they have to reach a certain floor.
And there are also some other teams out there that legitimately their rotation is
like
not
White
Major League
Sox.
caliber.
Like the Chicago White Sox need baseball players.
Exactly. And Taijuan Walker is not a baseball player on a World Series contending team, but he may be able to be for like part of a season a baseball player on a Major League.
But he's not a baseball player on this team.
No, he's not.
Like, he should not be on the opening day roster. If a trade does not happen, like, he shouldn't even be on the opening day roster. Just pitching AAA Lehigh. I mean, that's pretty much it. Keep the arm fresh. All right, that'll do it. Day one for you filling in for John. You're doing Tuesday and Wednesday as well. We appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. And I want to remind everybody, remember to support life-saving cancer research. Join me and our generous partner, H&H Heating and Air Conditioning, in making a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research today at 975thefanatic.com/AACR. Cancer research saves lives.
Beautiful, man. Hope Johnny's having a good time on his vacation. He'll be back next week.
Has he tried his new drink yet?
Well, he's not texting us, and I don't blame him. He butt dialed me from the plane on the way to his destination. And I was like, dude, I thought I was never going to hear from you. He goes, sorry, I butt dialed. His wife walked on the plane before him with his passport. And so he was frantically trying to call her.
Oh, because he didn't have his way to get him.
And he called me instead accidentally. See, I'm always here to help, but I couldn't really help.
Yeah, you're his work wife.
I couldn't really help that situation. Mike Missanelli show comes your way next. Everybody have a great rest of your day. We'll talk